Yes, I do know that.
Okay, everyone, welcome to City Council meeting. Tom, quit talking. Thanks.
Yes, go Mom.
All right, welcome to our City Council meeting for tonight, June 12th, 2019. We will have our invocation by the Sunrise Christian Church, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Tyler. Do you want to come up? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we humbly come before you, Lord. We just thank you for the blessings that you bestowed on this wonderful city. We also ask for a special blessing of wisdom and discernment for the mayor, the city council, also a special blessing of protection for law enforcement, fire, and any first responders. We give you glory, Lord. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, originally that was 2.6. Now I just have the
All right, we will now move on to our agenda order approval, and this is for all three agendas.
It's a long night.
Move to approve the agenda order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll now have council business.
I can't share the one thing I wanted to share.
No, you can't.
Mayor, I'm just going to open
Next
up.
week. Next week. Stay tuned for next week. Great
Stay
announcement
tuned.
for the city.
I'm just going to here, since I was out of town last week, I didn't get to disclose that I do every year when we do the budget. We're talking about budget items later on the agenda, and I'll just state it up front so I don't forget that my wife is a city employee, just so everybody knows publicly.
Thank you.
I have a couple of items, Mayor. I've been approached by several different citizens, and I concur with them. I'd really like us to look if we could create a red zone, a no parking zone on 300 West and Coal Creek Road, right there by the Sunrock building. Because of the angle of that road and the way it comes around, the employees' vehicles are being parked too close to the curb, and you cannot see it as a blind coming out onto Coal Creek. Okay, so if you could look at that, please, and see what we might be able to do. I don't know what it's appropriate. I don't know if it's 25 feet. I don't know what the appropriate amount is, but they're parking too close to the curb, and you cannot see oncoming traffic.
So, and that's on the Sunrock side of the street?
That's correct, on the southeast corner there. Then the other thing I would like to bring up for consideration is I would like to have the city and the council consider, Mayor, I suppose it'll be an ordinance, I'm not sure, but we need to do something to restrict large charter buses, large vehicles, large motorhomes from parking on our downtown Main Street, particularly between 200 North and 200 South and approximately 100 East to 300 West. First of all, you cannot see the businesses behind all of these large vehicles. They are taking up a lot of the parking spaces when we had limited parking downtown anyway, and they are destroying the trees and the lights in the trees after we have thousands of dollars spent to prune them and get the lights back in them. And I'd like to see us do something to restrict those vehicles from parking directly on the main street. So I'd like that for consideration.
Can you legally do that?
I don't know why you couldn't.
I mean,
We have no parking places. We have, I don't know. Can we not legally do that?
Presumably UDOT would have to.
I've been in places where they say no oversized vehicles are allowed to park here.
So Main Street's UDOT's road.
Yeah.
So they would be the agency that would have to put that into place.
So we need to visit with them. Okay.
for Main Street, for the other road you mentioned, it would be city.
Right. Do I have the city's permission to at least approach them about it and talk with them? Or would you like to talk to the mayor or?
We can talk with them.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Has it been a real problem?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen just last week in front of the Main Street Grill, there was this gigantic limb hanging and the lights were hanging because a semi truck, a big semi was parked there.
Or was that from I think that was from the snow. I saw those were broken.
No, I
After
saw
the snow.
I saw it happen.
Oh, okay.
I witnessed my
maybe
very
I just
self.
assumed it was the snow at the same time.
May have been another tree, but I saw this one happen.
Okay.
And he pulled right there and just pulled out and crunch, there it went. Yeah. So I think it has been a problem. But I'd like to at least explore it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments, questions? Okay. Then we will move to our staff comments, starting with Jason. This is a big night for Jason with how many times he gets to talk.
He's excited.
Mark this moment, Jason.
Mayor, Council, Jason Norris from Finance. You know, I'm from Carbon County. I can't read good, but I'm going to try to read my own writing tonight. We've nominated Wendy Bonzo, our city treasurer, as the employee of the month for June. As the city treasurer, Wendy is a lead member of our finance team and a familiar point of contact for our customers. In Wendy's position, she oversees the collection of all the city's revenue, which includes thousands of transactions for monthly customer billings, as well as investing, safeguarding, and the disbursement of city funds. Wendy is the longest tenured member of our finance team and has had a key role in implementing all of the city's financial information systems over the years. During her time at the city, Wendy has worked with our vendors to provide billing solutions that have made utility payments automated and convenient for our customers while reducing the need for additional staff. She recently developed an investment policy for the management of the city's cash reserves. She is supportive of her coworkers and a leader to those she supervises. Wendy is active in the treasurer associations and stays current on state regulations and best practices. As treasurer, she has a positive working relationship with the public and carries out her duties with professionalism. She is a model employee, and we appreciate the great job she does for the community.
Get that comment?
She does do a good job.
She's awesome. Oh, yeah, you're right.
All right. Which mic? Shirts.
I've got a brief PowerPoint, only 200 or 300 slides, Mayor.
Yeah.
On the
Council.
International Building Code or something
Yes,
that's
sir.
exciting.
You guys
Yes.
over at the
But you still have
firehouse
to
have way
introduce
too much
yourself.
time. on
Yes,
your
ma'am.
hands.
Mike Schertz with the fire department. So you can get my PowerPoint here. And so, as you know, we've had a nice wet winter and spring and cool temperatures. And so one of the consequences of that is that we've had quite an abundant crop of vegetation around the city. And so consequently, we have observed that a number of fire hydrants are now very difficult to see. So fortunately, we've had a group of seasonal employees that we're able to use this summer. They're our fuels mitigation crew. I'm kind of stalling until the PowerPoint comes
You're
up.
doing a very good job.
Thank you.
Riveted.
So one of the tasks that we have identified for them based on this nice green up and abundant crop of vegetation is to go out and inspect each of the hydrants in the city and identify the ones that are difficult to see and will present challenges for the fire department if we need them. So you can go to that next slide, Kit. So these are some photos that they've taken around the city in the last about a week or 10 days, I think. There is a fire hydrant in each of those pictures. Some of them are, as you can see, what we like to call hidden assets. We need immediate access to a fire hydrant if something's on fire. I don't think that needs to be stated, but I'll state it anyway. So if you'll go to the next slide, Kit. So these are some before and after pictures of their work in the last week or 10 days. Picture on the left is before, picture on the right is after. So we've sent them out with chainsaws and weed trimmers and garden tools, and they've been clearing the space around these fire hydrants. The code indicates that as a minimum, the fire department will have a 3-foot zone around the circumference of the hydrant, and that it will not be impeded in any way and that it's readily accessible. So I come to you today just for one thing, to let you know we've been out doing this, if you hear about it. Some of these hydrants are located in the front yards and on some private property, and we've worked with Tyler a little bit and worked with, knocked on doors and told folks what we're doing. But we want to let you know that we're out doing this work. And then the second is that we would like to encourage everyone in the city just to take a look around your homes, your neighborhoods. And if you see issues like this and you can take care of them, go ahead and take care of them. Make sure we've got good, clear space around our fire hydrants, or let us know and we'll go take care of them. And then one last thing, even though it has been nice and wet and everything's really green and it is going to dry out. We were on a little fire about 4 o'clock today that if it had had a few more days of 85-degree weather and some wind, it probably would have been a really good fire. So we would just encourage everyone, as you look around and you've got some vegetation that's close to your house, maybe consider moving that back 60 or 100 feet so that when in a couple of weeks when we start lighting off fireworks, you've got a good safe zone around your home that's cleared of these weeds and those sorts of things. So unless you have any questions, am I under 3 minutes?
You did good. You
Thank
did
you.
way better than.
Thanks, Mike.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
That was
And there were 3 slides. All right. Are there any other staff comments? Okay. We will move on to our business agenda with the public comment portion. If you're here about an item not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda.
Okay.
It's something else, I promise. Susan Tyner, Southwest Wildlife Foundation. We've had campfire concerts up at the park for the last many years. We weren't sure if we were going to have them this year, but George Loosely stepped up. He's arranged for musicians, so we will be holding them the last Friday of each month, June, July, August, September. June 28th, we'll have Kenny Russell. July 26th, Dick Earl. August 30th, Sherry Peterson. September 27th, Caitlin Seavey, and they begin at 7:30. They go until about 9. We provide marshmallows and s'mores and goodies, so it's free. Everybody can enjoy and bring their families. So, and then anybody else that wants to volunteer and help out, we're having a meeting at the nature park at the picnic area behind the restrooms at 12 o'clock Saturday just to meet with people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Campfire concerts, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Good evening, Tom Jett. Last week we had a regular meeting, and it was an interesting topic, and I won't mention what the topic was because I don't want to excite anybody. But there was some maybe not deliberate or intentional scowling at certain individuals that were here, particularly young people that were trying to speak on that particular subject last week. And it really, really scared those young people. And I don't have an issue on that subject matter, but I do take offense when we are scaring the young people. So they're so bravely come up here and stand before this group and stand before the group behind them. It takes a lot of courage. And I just hope that if anybody speaks this evening, they just remember those young people. They're just trying to be part of the community and trying to give their 2 cents. So I thank you, and please be assured this is not an attack on any one individual. We're all get that group mentality sometimes. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Carter Wilkie. Can we pull up those pictures real quick, Kit? I have a rental property over on 800 West, approximately 350 North, and there's 2 homes over there, and there's a walkway between those 2 homes. It's an 8-foot wide walkway. This is a picture of it right here. According to everything I've seen, including on the GIS map, that is actually city-owned property. That walkway is owned by the city. This is the road, like I said, so this house right here is 300 North. So we're talking right at 300 North, 800 West. My rental's down the street here. A lot of the children use this to access North Elementary. So this goes from 800 West down to 700 West. Can we go to the next picture, Kit? So I went out there on Monday night. I don't like to just bring a problem. I says, well, let me help be part of the solution. So I went out on Monday night, spent some time. You can keep going, Kit. That lawnmower is directly under that tree. So those tree branches come down to about here on this walkway. You can keep going, Kit. So, and then just a couple different things along the walkway. The fence is in horrible shape. Obviously, I know that's not city property. That's owned by the people. You can go to the next one. This is kind of a concern. This sticks out partway into the walkway, and there's some barbed wire hanging off of it. So I worry about some of the kids. While I was doing it, I actually stepped on a broken glass bottle, went through my shoe into my foot. Everything's okay. Don't worry. I'm fine. But so that was a concern. Lots of trash through there. You can keep going, Kit. So this is kind of what it looked like after I was done. I've gotten in contact with the owner of this home who has the tree that overhangs it. She no longer lives in Cedar City. She lives in Wisconsin. Her plans are to continue moving her stuff out slowly. Then they'll sell the home or do something with it. I asked her, I says, are you okay if we trim your tree? She said, yep, do everything you want. She doesn't care. Their grass is just as tall. Go to the next one, Kit, if you could. There's just another angle of it. And then one more. So the piece that I'm talking about, so this goes all the way from 800 to 700. The 2 properties, you can tell. So this cleared side is on the 700 West side. So I imagine those homeowners take pride in their neighborhood and they're doing a good job. So I would like to come to the city and see what can we do for the other piece. So, I mean, I'm even willing to help get some volunteers together. Maybe we could find an Eagle Scout project, something. If the city be willing to buy some of the materials, maybe we could do the same thing, weed fabric and either bark or rock or something more permanent. I mean, concrete would be the best solution, but you're 100 I measured it today, you're 130 feet per section. So you're 260 feet total all the way through. So at 8 feet wide, it's a large piece there. So I don't know which department would technically be over this, but I just wanted to bring it and see what we can do to make it so it's a little bit better in the future.
Come and talk with us.
That's probably a good question because where does the department, that's probably part of the issue.
Yeah, and it's such a small sliver, I didn't even know if it was on anybody's radar.
Why do we own this little sliver? How did this come about? It's just been there forever?
Yeah.
Be a gap in deeds or something.
Yeah.
We'll have to look at it and see.
So, okay. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you for your work on that, Carter, very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Wow.
Brittany Perry. As you know, there's 13 of us that file to run for city council, which is awesome. I'm also the chair of the Iron County Democrats, which people already know that, so it's okay for me to tell them. I got told not to tell people, so
I think it's
part of
fine.
my job is to recruit candidates. But because of how ugly some of our county commission races have been, and then just how divisive our community's been, I find that people are afraid to run for office, even though they might want to, because they're afraid it might affect their income, their livelihood in negative ways. So I feel like this election might be the perfect opportunity for the 13 of us to make this an awesome experience and really set an example for future elections. And I think the way we can get the city behind this is to have a goal for Cedar City to have the highest voter turnout in the state. I think I talked to the chair from the Republican Party last night. We had an awesome conversation about it. I think it would be something to really bring the community together. And how awesome would it be to say we had a higher turnout than Salt Lake City? So I'm wondering if this is something the city would like to do. And
I think it's a very lofty
I
goal.
think, I don't know if there's other candidates here, but I think after the 4th of July parade, it'd be awesome to do a massive voter registration in the park. So I've talked to some of the other candidates that I know, and they're all pretty excited about that. And I just think it would be a really fun, positive experience for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good. So that's it.
Thank you.
They can have iPads. They can do it all online too. They have cellular. All right. Are there any other comments not related to the agenda? Yes.
Is this the appropriate time for general comments
If
on
it's
any topic?
Not related to an agenda item?
That's fine. I'm on item 12. We haven't got to that yet.
We'll get there.
Yes. Okay. And we are ready to start the public agenda with our consent agenda first with item number 1, approval of minutes dated May 13th, 14th, 15th, and 22nd, 2019. The ratified bills dated May 31st, 2019. Approve a single event alcohol permit for the Utah Farm and Food Conference to be held February 6th, 7th, and 8th, 2020. Approval of a road dedication at 1021 South, 350 West. Approve terminating a lease agreement between Cedar City Corporation and Thomas Jett. And item number 6, approval of bids from Schmidt Construction in the amount of $914,271.50 for Aviation Way to 3900 West Sewer Project.
Motion to approve the agenda, the consent agenda. Sorry, Councilwoman.
Nope, you're fine. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are now to the action agenda with item number 7, consider temporary closure of 45.
So this is the road off of
Come
College Way. We've got one resident at the bottom of the hill that you can see right by the 45 North designation on the photo there that would like us to close it. We have Mr. Olds who lives at the other end of 45 North who I don't think wants it closed. I think all this got sparked by development of this vacant land to the left-hand side of the photo into some townhomes. I really don't have any more information for the council. It's whether we close it or don't close it.
And this is the one that's been before the council a few different times, but Mr. Olds wasn't able to be here those other times. So you can talk as long as you introduce yourself.
Okay, Larry Olds. I'm against that closure. We use that road all the time. My wife uses it every morning to go to work. And I try to go that way because I don't like to go towards Amy Avenue because you might get T-bone going that way. Nobody stops at those stop signs either way. I mean, they fly right through it, and there's going to be a bad wreck there sometime. And if that building does go in there, you know, there's going to be a lot more traffic down there. But I really don't want it closed. That road was there when we moved out there. That's the only way we had to get home at the time, and we've just got used to using it. So, I mean, I've heard the reason it needs to be closed is, I'm not going to say, but it seems to me like kind of a lame way to do it. There's a lot of roads in town you're going to have to close if that's going to be the precedent you set. So anyway, all I'm saying is we use it all the time, and I'd really like you to consider leaving it open. Thanks.
Larry,
Larry.
hang on a sec.
I'm back.
Do you make left turns out of there a lot?
Not
A
left.
left-hand turn, or do you?
Oh, you
usually-
mean going down?
Yeah, trying to get on
At the
other
bottom
way.
of 45 on
Yeah,
the
at the
College
bottom
Way.
of
Yes, I
45.
do. And Kit's indicated to me that he's got an idea to make that a little bit safer there. It is kind of a blind turn. I usually turn and go to the right, but if it's early in the morning, I can go that way. It is a little bit of a hazard, but Kit's indicated he's got kind of a solution to that right there. But it's safer to go that way than it is down towards Amy because they just fly through that stop sign.
Thank you. We're glad you came in. We wanted to hear
Hey,
from you.
Larry, can you tell me why do you suspect they fly through that stop signs? I mean, they're clearly marked. They're there. I've driven up there. I've seen them. Do they just ignore them, or they can't see them, or what?
They just ignore them, and they don't even look. I mean, quite literally, they don't look. They just fly right through it. And the horn, I better not say the horn in my truck don't work or I'd be laying on the horn. But they don't either way, coming out and going in. And
Well, so let me ask you, in the winter months, when there's bad weather and snow and different things, do you continue to use that, or do you go Amy Avenue because
no,
of
I
the
usually
weather?
go down that road there.
Even if it's bad weather?
And Pam goes that way every morning to work. So, and I go home that way a lot. And it's just because I've got used to doing it. But I really don't see why it needs to be closed, to be right honest with you. I have no idea why you need to close that road.
Well, there will be an increase in traffic, and I think that's what the concern was with a couple of the homeowners there, because if students are living in those townhomes or whoever they might be.
Give me the couple, because I've heard it was just one.
Well, I can't tell you the other person's name right off the top of my head. We had two, but I can't remember the other person right off the top of my head, but I can maybe go back and find it.
All right, well,
it doesn't matter.
I've just heard one, and that's kind of lame.
But I guess my question is, do you foresee problems if that traffic on 45 North is increased by 6-fold or 10-fold or?
No, I don't see it. No, like I say, they're going to be coming out of there. They're going to use that. They're going to use that 45 North.
They are.
I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Well, we'll find out, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
So I know that all of our other meetings, we wanted Larry's to kind of know his view, and so.
Sure.
All right. Yes.
My name is Jonathan Pine, and I am that other one person. Mr. Olds, I understand where you're coming from. I understand how much frustrating that must be for you. And I apologize this is affecting you in a negative aspect. The reason why this road is important to be closed is I had submitted some photos. I don't know if those photos were here from one of the previous councils. They accepted to take them. You can't fit 2 vehicles down that road without one vehicle having to drive off the roadway. And people use that, then the apartments in, if you can scroll up to just a little bit, use that as a walkway for exercise, to go to school, etc. And so first and foremost, I think there is a huge safety concern there that has to be addressed with the Amy Avenue PUD going in, regardless of what other reasonings there are. And I think too, are you able to scrub just a little bit? And so besides the safety aspect, there is a privacy concern for every individual. Where's the laser pointer guy at?
Try the black one.
This guy right here.
Oh,
the pen.
The
That guy right
pen
there.
looking one. There's a button on it.
Perfect. And so there's 5 houses here. Obviously, one's not developed. This road sits about 12 feet high above these homes here. And so from this road, you can look directly into this person's backyard with the children playing on the trampoline, all into Mary and Whitney's backyard here, to my bedroom, kitchen, and all of my backyard here. And then specifically this is an all-girls student housing house here. I mean, you can look right into their bedroom window and into the kitchen window as well. And this is a very personal way. Now, I understand I bought a home on a hill and there's going to be people looking into it. However, when this was purchased, there also wasn't going to be an R3 development of 6 duplexes here. And so I think the biggest issue here really is how to balance growth versus people who live here in any of these communities, and how do you balance that? And so I think, as we've mentioned, this is likely going to be student housing. There's going to be up to 24 people living here. And this is the direct access to go to any accommodation, either that be the school or anywhere else, and it's going to get used. And it's different than when it was originally an R1 and a single family house. We would have known that neighbor. It'd been in very limited traffic on that road. But when the council approved the R3 rezoning and the 6 duplex housing there, that dynamically changes the usage of that road. And so I feel like us as the community there then have to foot the bill by either decreased privacy or roads having to be closed down for safety issues and limited access to our property. Now, I feel for Mr. Olds, I feel like that has to be a very frustrating thing, but I don't think, the extra 30 seconds it takes here to go down to this area outweighs not only the safety concern, but then also the privacy of these 5 homes that are affected by this. I think the permanent solution would be just to develop the road and then put in a block wall that's going to maintain that privacy here. And I'd be more than willing to help pay for that as well. I think that's a permanent solution. We can temporarily close it until other reasons are to reopen it. But there's several factors here that aren't just me, I guess. And I know there's other homeowners here that are affected by this, but they can't make it tonight. So I guess I have lots of things to say. I don't want to take up the city council's time more than I need
Mr.
to.
Pine, it seems to me that we've visited this, I think, at least 3 different times that I'm aware of counting tonight. So the neighbors should have had an opportunity to come to one of those meetings. As far as I know, you're the only one that stepped forward at a council meeting.
Right. And so the problem is a lot of these people.
Oh, that's true. There she is right there.
She is here. And the other problem is, I've talked to, it goes bigger than this, right?
I can't forget you.
So the problem is these community members have shown up to these meetings, specifically dealing with the Amy Avenue PD. And every time they come here, they feel like their voice has not been heard to the point where I can't get them to come anymore, right? Because they went from the R1 to R2, R2 to R3 to this development, and they felt like their voices have never been heard. And they don't care. You guys are going to do, in their mind, you guys are going to do what you're going to do, and there's nothing they can do to change that. So that's why.
So it seems to me that we're going to have increased traffic there. There's no question about it. And I think that we can't just ignore the situation, whether it's temporary closure or whether developing the road. And I would opt that I think down the road, we should be looking at developing this as a viable road. I'm not sure we're going to put up a black wall. And let me tell you, I live on 300 West, and two living lots down from me is a 3-story apartment building. They look directly into my backyard. I just make sure that I'm fully clothed when I'm in my backyard.
Right.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And as you indicated, you live on a hill, and roads are going to incline at 12%, 10%, 7%, whatever it is. So that's part of the reality of living there and living in an area where there are a lot of university students living.
Absolutely. And so this was brought up last time too. And while I think it's also member Hartley as well, he lives on a road that's kind of similar. And I think while that might be acceptable for you guys, it's kind of different for me, right? So I guess just because it's okay with you doesn't mean it's okay with me. And you're right, I did choose to live here, but I didn't choose to have this R3 development put there. That was the council's decision, right? So when that was
I didn't choose for mine either.
Yeah.
But it happened.
But I guess the point is that when these decisions are made, there has to be some kind of accountability, some kind of compromise or weighing out the balance. And so I agree. I think the permanent solution is just to build the road and put in a block wall. And if I have to pay for a large portion of that myself, then I will, because it's important to me. And if we have to use some of the property taxes from the huge development that's going on, then I feel like it's a worthy cause as well.
Do you own that property along there?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So you'd have to get permission from the property owner, obviously, to do that.
Yeah.
I personally am in favor of us developing that road. I think it needs to be developed. And I think in a year or year and a half, whenever this project is completed, I think we're going to need to do that. And I think we'll be sorry if we don't.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure the city is up for building a block wall, but I'm only speaking for myself.
Okay. And what about a temporary closure in the meantime?
So that is what is before the council. If any of you are so inclined to make a motion to approve it, and if not, then
So when we're talking temporary, like temporary
would
until
have
the
to
property owners
would have to
would develop along there?
specify what temporary would mean.
Well, I don't think we should do anything until the project is developed.
Right, because that's what
I'm with you.
pays for it.
And I don't know
So-
when that will be, but when it is completed, then we're going to have some information to look at to find out how many vehicles are there, how much traffic is there. I'm assuming we could do some kind of a traffic count, couldn't we, Kit, to at least see how many cars are coming and going out of there? I think right now it's premature to say we're going to close the road when we don't even have a project up there.
All right. So is there anyone?
I would make a motion. Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have a question for Chief Phillips. I know we've talked about this before, but isn't that important to have that for fire trucks access both ways? Or, I mean, you're going to end up with a dead end road on Amy Avenue. Isn't that important that you have 2 accesses to that if it's a large apartment building?
So I think in the
You
Mike
didn't
Phillips.
say your name.
I did. I just knew you were going to stop me. Mike Phillips, the fire chief. developments over 80 units have to have a secondary access to it. So this probably wouldn't fall underneath of that. As long as the road wasn't over 150 feet, didn't have a turnaround in the end of it. So if it's longer than that, they have to put a turnaround in the end of that street. That's what the code says.
How long is that?
But
I don't know.
You say if it's over 150 feet, it has to have a turnaround?
The 150 feet dead end, it has to have a
So
turnaround in it.
that's well over 150 feet. So,
yeah.
So
That's not necessarily a dead end road because you still
Got
got, you still got this road is a through street here. So
well, if we close that road, it will be a
And they'll have to put a turnaround in it.
So you'd have to build a turnaround. Who's responsible to do that?
It's not in his budget.
All right.
Well, I would make a motion. I would make a motion that we do nothing regarding the temporary closure until such time as the development is finished, and then we do revisit this yet again to see what traffic is like and what steps we take forward. I would also suggest, and I said this last time we met, that we look at trying to see if we can move the development of 45 North up in priority on some of the road projects for the city.
Okay. So there is a motion. Do you want that entire thing as your motion?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a second his incredibly long motion?
I'll make an incredibly long second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Consider forgiving Southwest Wildlife Foundation water bill. Okay. So we have talked about this. I know last week we were going through how much there's the $100 penalty for turning the water back on.
So,
Do you want to make?
well, I'm just gonna,
Shot at a motion.
I looked at this, yeah, so.
I think we're all prepared.
So I
to make-
think we've discussed this quite a bit. I think we need to vote to waive, I'll make a motion to waive the bill, but we charge them the $90 regular bill plus the $100 fine for turning it on without permission. And then we reimburse what's been paid on the overages from the leak from the community promotion fund.
I would second that with one exception. I would like to request that the money not come from the community promotion fund, that we take it from the water meter reserve rather than the community promotion. But I support the motion.
Can we do that? I just asked, I asked them before the meeting where we would get
I
the
would
money. and
prefer
they
it to
said
come
the
out of the community promotion.
So can it come?
So
Yep,
the
we just
community-
question why it would come out of that.
Yeah.
Maybe we need
we
an
do a lot of
explanation.
sponsorship of various organizations out of community promotions, whether it's
So that's the
Canyon
thinking
Creek
behind it.
or
Or
the
the-
Care and Share
Or the
Okay, all
tribe.
right.
or the tribe.
Or
There's the
any.
All right.
Yeah. So,
So-
there's
Now
a reason for
Okay,
it.
now, well,
Okay.
it wasn't clear. So,
Plus that fund's set to, all of our funds are going to close in 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Well, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
all right, I will retract the addendum to the motion and will second the motion as presented by Councilman Cousins.
And maybe just an explanation for those that are here that haven't heard this discussion. This is a restroom that was built by the Southwest Wildlife Foundation, and they clean it, they maintain it, and it's mostly used by the city for people. And it's a great service for the trail system. It's very appreciated what they're doing. And I don't know that we've ever waived a bill. I don't think I've ever voted to waive a bill in the 7.5 years I've been here, but I do support this one based on the circumstances. So.
Okay. All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Consider appeal of decision to deny a claim.
Tyler, would.
Run us through this
would
again.
I don't want to rehash the whole thing. I'm just asking. If we went in and fixed where it's settled and the curb and gutter and everything there, if we did that as a city, would we be good and could we move on?
Well, no, because Mr. Benson's claim is that we need to reimburse him $7,000+ for his cost to fix his sewer line.
So is that what he's already spent? Because I wasn't really clear on that.
Correct.
Okay, that didn't include fixing the curb, the things that are residual after there. Okay.
So because I thought that's what I heard him say.
Me too. That's what I
he
thought I
was
heard.
very
He is
agreeable.
right here.
Oh, there he is.
Well, there
he
you
is.
are.
You tricked us. You're sitting in a different place.
David Benson. I got it.
Yeah, I'm so proud.
I practiced all week.
Good job.
So yeah, it's cost me $8,000 to fix it roughly. And I hate to say this because I really kind of like money. I like to feed my family and a few unimportant things like that. That said, I would be happy if it was fixed. Because it's going to have to be fixed at some point anyway.
And what needs to be fixed?
So I thought I was so with it last week with my little handouts, but these guys that are shooting them up here, so the sidewalk needs to be fixed. The sidewalk itself is sinking, and I think will continue to sink. The sidewalk that runs parallel to the house, north and south, a little piece of sidewalk that goes over the gutter is compromised and breaking. And then the curb itself, that the big mess that's created because it puddles right there, the dirt, the debris that comes down in the irrigation water blocks and it's going to have to be fixed.
I came and looked at that.
Right.
Was it settled before this water line repair?
No,
it was not.
Was not. Yeah, and you can see just as that's the thing that tells you, I have no ulterior motives here. If it was repaired, I'd be completely happy with it. I thought about what could have caused this because I know that people get their own, geez, you're accusing me of doing a bad job or being negligent. And certainly that's not my intent. But I thought about this. You got to remember this was in November. It's a high pressure water line that started to leak, and I could see water coming out of the ground. That means there was a lot of water pressure down there. And I wonder if that water pressure, think about sticking your garden hose 6 inches under the ground and turning it on. I wonder if that water pressure didn't cause a big mess. And then, the right way to fix that would be to get the wet material out and dry it before you put it back, or put new dry material back in. And being November and most of the plants closed in town, I wonder if wet material was put back in the hole, or it's just hard in November to do that kind of repair. Yeah. But the bottom line is that it's settled, and it's a problem. I mean, take my sewer line completely out of it, it's still a problem. My sewer line's fixed, but there's still a problem with that water pooling there. And
I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think the city caused the settling. I think it was the water leak that caused the settling. If there were, I think with that much water, it probably settled from the water, not from, because when the city fixes a water line, the fill they use is what do they call it?
Slurry.
The slurry
Slurry,
that's
and
100% or 98% compaction.
Right.
So there would have been no settling from what the city did for their repair. It
If
probably
you
would have
get
been
all of the wet material out of there, and because it's high pressure, that answers the reason there was material clear back under the sidewalk, is because, again, with the garden hose example, you get water, way back further than what you can see, and it damages the material under the road.
I guess my question, maybe for legal, is for Tyler, is are we liable as a city when there's a water leak and it settles sidewalks and curb and gutters? Are we liable for that, or is the owner?
Well, it depends whose water leak it is. If it's on the owner's side, it's the owner's. If
And
it's
so-
our water line, it's ours.
Okay, where was this leak? It was
Out
on
in
your-
the street.
It was in the street. It was on our side.
It's your water line.
On which side of the meter? On your side of the meter or our side of the meter?
The main water line going down 300 West.
Okay.
It's a high pressure line. There would have been, you'd have discovered it quickly. I don't think it leaked for very long before. Yeah.
So you're looking at some gutter work and some sidewalk work. Obviously, the soil that we see in the photographs, that's going to grow back because the grass will come up and it will eventually take care of that.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of repairs that still need to be done.
It's the sidewalk and the curb and gutter that need to be addressed. And honestly, you can fix it now or fix it later. It's just getting worse. You can see it.
Yeah, I drove by. I saw the water pooling.
Yeah.
When irrigation water runs down there, it just sits.
That's correct.
Yep.
So if the council's inclined to offer to fix the curb and gutter, Mr. Benson's willing to sign a waiver of his claim in return for the city fixing that. That could be one way of taking care of it. My advice to the city council would be, let's table this, find out what it's going to cost to replace that curb and gutter first before we just vote to approve
And that sidewalk. And that piece of sidewalk.
I like that, to maybe table.
I do too.
Research a little bit more.
I do too. I'm certainly willing to wait. And, I want to be solution oriented. I appreciate that, Tyler. Thank you.
I think if the water leaks on our side and we cause that settling, I think we have some liability to help with that. So.
Okay.
So is that a motion?
Well, I just,
Yeah, can
my
we-
motion would be to
So
table
can
it.
we get a motion? Okay, is it
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And in the meantime, will you work with Tyler?
Absolutely. Tyler, you have my letter and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
Okay. Item number 10, approve the final plat for the Sage Springs Phase 2 subdivision. Do we have all the legal stuff we needed for this one?
Yes, so yesterday I received a letter of credit from State Bank. So it's official, everything's been checked off, and legally, there's no reason why this project can't move forward.
So,
Feisty.
I move to approve the final plat.
And this is the right kind of subdivision in the right kind of zone. It is there.
You answered a question. and
You
didn't
know
say-
they double checked me. It's my work. So
You
they're
have
going
to
to double
say your
check
name.
it. Ben Batty.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a,
Motion to approve the final plat.
yeah, there.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you all. Okay, public hearing to consider the amended plat for Phase 2 of the Fort Cedar Commerce PUD.
Dallas Buckner, Go Civil. Is there any questions on the amended plat for the Fort Cedar?
Didn't we,
What?
didn't we open this for a public hearing last time? I
Yeah.
don't know.
I thought we did.
Yeah, but my notice, because of the need to
Oh,
kind
was
of
the
rush
notice.
this through.
Okay, thank you.
open it up
Thank you.
today as well.
I just wondered
Oh,
why
okay.
we're doing it again. Okay.
Alright.
Fair enough.
Does the
No, I
council
don't
have
a
any
problem with it. I don't have a
questions or anything? Okay, then we will officially open the public hearing on this item. If there's anyone that would like to address the council on it. Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. And are there any additional comments, questions from the council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good. Okay, item number 12, consider an ordinance amending the general land use plan for medium density to real estates residential on property located at 1525 Southwest View Drive.
Any questions on this one? So this is the annex transition that's going to the low density over off of Westview.
From medium density. So we're.
Yep, it's
Well,
general planned as medium density, and we're proposing
Yep.
the low
Go
density.
down to residential.
Less dense.
We'll let him.
Nope, I like
And
this.
although, did you have a question?
No, I didn't, but I just wanted
Yes.
to acknowledge this gentleman.
We'll let him.
If you
We
wanted
did
to
have the
let him.
public hearing last week on this, but we will let you.
Thank you. I just wanted
But you still
to,
have to state your name.
my name, oh yes, I already know it. Harold Pease. It's spelled P-E-A-S-E. I wanted to thank a member of the city council with respect to the Westview Drive and this property borders on Westview Drive. This property is going to increase the traffic on Westview Drive. And those on Westview Drive received a letter about 2 months ago telling them for the first time that Westview Drive, the intent of the council is to widen it to 4 lanes. I happen to live on Westview Drive, right across the street from this development. But what we've already talked about this, we've already been to the Planning Commission, but I wanted to thank one member of the City Council in particular who seems to have taken a little interest in hearing a little bit more about what we would like to propose. What's going to happen with 40,000 new residents, in addition to the 30,000 plus that we already have in the next 40 years, which is what we learned 3 weeks ago in this chamber, is that obviously there's going to be a need for looking at our roads and seeing now, not later, whether the master plan is sufficient. Well, it must have already been decided that it wasn't sufficient because the letter I received and had to have been approved by the City Council for all of us who live on Westview to receive wants 25 feet of my property to accommodate the widening of Westview Drive. So we came and we spoke to the council on this previously to show that would be a real problem for many of our residents. And anyway, Councilman Phillips has indicated a willingness to speak to some of us privately in the presence of our city manager and also our city engineer, and to listen to a small number of community members who would like to propose another option called share the traffic, so that we have been over the plan that it presently exists, and we have driven over possible alternative routes that allow us to share the traffic so nobody has to have a 4-lane highway. Anyway, so my purpose of being here tonight is we come here to criticize the City Council, but we also come here to if we think that there might be the possibility of a better plan or an equally good plan, because down the road, there may be those that won't sell their property, and then eminent domain has to be considered, and then the possibility of lawsuits has to be entertained. We would like to address this early, before the 40,000 get here, with alternative north-south routes. And so I'm just complimenting Councilman Phillips for his willingness to meet with us. Also, Paul Bittman and also Kit Warham. So thank you for at least opening a door, because it's our purpose not to come to a meeting when we have no other alternative, but to be pro in pre-planning. And yes, this has already been pre-planned, someone might say, but we might have some things that have changed since the last time it was pre-planned. And so we're thanking the council for at least an ear. The options may be rejected, but at least an ear. And so I think this meeting is almost set up. There's only one of the three from the council who has not yet committed fully, but I know that he will. And I thank you for your willingness to, and we would invite any other city councilman. We're not there to fight anything particularly. We're there because we're affected really affected. And it doesn't have to necessarily be this way. And the more we wait, like this property right here that we're talking about right now, if we wait another 5 years, they're going to be developing this within 2 years, I understand. We lose some of our options with advanced development, which makes it imperative for us to be saying, listen to us now, before lawsuits are involved, before more people are affected. We know that growth is inevitable, and we think that we would like to have some input into it. And rather than be just told that there's no other way, we welcome the opportunity to sit down with some of you with an alternative plan, which we have developed. So thank you for your time, and thank you, Councilman Phillips, for opening a small door for us.
Okay. As for the ordinance related to the general land use plan at hand,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. While all the Westview is affected, it doesn't affect the decision that we're making tonight. So I would motion to approve that we amend the general land use plan, reducing that density on that property.
Second.
all right, we'll do a roll call. We'll start with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Thank you. We'll move on. Consider an ordinance amending the zone from annex transition to residential estates for property located at 1525 Southwest View Drive.
Move to approve the ordinance amending that zone change.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
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 Thank you. The next one, consider an ordinance adding the street name Driscoll Lane to 350 West from Green Street to the Southern cul-de-sac.
As long as 350 West remains on that sign, I'm good to approve that. And I move to approve it.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 All right, consider an ordinance amending restricting vaping and electronic cigarettes in the city parks.
I want to thank those young people for
Yeah.
pushing this through.
Are they here tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here
they're over in this,
They're over on
they're
the
all
right-
over here.
on the right side.
Did you guys want to say anything or?
Just wave at us.
No.
And
Does the
thank
council
you.
have any new questions for him or?
No,
No,
thank
you
I
very
thank
Other than,
much.
did you work out the signage?
Yeah, because you got a giant grant, I understand. At least that was reported to us.
Yeah.
So signs are expensive. I'd like to know if we're going to be able
Yeah,
to.
I was gonna say Heidi or somebody, will you come?
Heidi Baxley, Southwest Behavioral Health Center. We're still trying to get a hold of Ken Nelson from Parks, but we're in the process.
He's on the back row too.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful!
Yeah, there you go.
So
there
yeah.
it is.
and we did get a really big grant, so it's amazing.
Good, good.
Specifically for
using-
this
It's called the
project?
Drug Free Communities Grant. It's $125,000 per year for 5 years.
That is a giant grant.
Oh,
Yeah, they worked
great.
really hard.
Wow.
We need to hitch.
Yeah.
Don't we
our
have the
star
county
there.
Can we build some
do some of
trails
our
and put
signs
signs
or
on the
whatnot?
trails?
For cheaper or?
As long as it's
Bigger
drug and
than our
alcohol-free
signage or
trails, I don't
something.
see why not.
It depends on which one.
Any other questions?
No, but you'll work with Ken.
Uh-huh.
And, okay.
Move to approve.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilwoman Hartley. 'cause I don't
Aye.
know what's
Aye.
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 Okay. Consider resolution amending the consolidated fee schedule.
I think we all received the information from Mr. Holt. I don't know if anybody's speaking to this, but I was fine with the revisions made, and I think he addressed what we asked him to do last week. So if there's no concern, I would make a motion to approve the fee schedule based on the comments and the additions that Mr. Holt made for the council.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
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 All right. Consider a resolution designating the city's Lay Hill water tank as a monument to bear the Cedar High School color and Redmond symbol.
Okay, everybody, wake up.
All right.
So we did add the dates. The only change we made on the resolution, we changed the dates showing that it's in memory of the dates from 1942 to 2019. We added that language in the resolution. So
I would like to address something before we make a vote on this or whatever the action will be. And so, again, forgive me, but I've tried to be succinct. I want to write these things down so I didn't miss any points.
And
Okay?
Perfect. So when you're done with that, will you just give it
I
to
know.
Renan?
Just transfer it right on over to Renan because I do read the minutes. So, Mayor and Council, I have some language that I would like to be considered as part of the proposed resolution and ask that if this resolution, as presented by Councilman Cousins, were to pass this evening, these points be part of a public record or an addendum to the resolution. And I've tried to share these over the course of past several days with several of the members, so I'm not trying to catch anyone unaware. Number one, that the city-owned water tank in question is examined annually by representatives of the city and the special interest group led by Paul Cousins, who are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep to determine if any repairs are necessary, and if so, that those repairs are completed in a timely manner.
You're talking about repairs, sorry, you're talking about repairs as far as
To the
aesthetics,
paint and
not
to the
tank
exterior.
itself.
You're correct.
Okay.
You're correct. That's why I'm saying wordsmithing may still need to be.
The
You
tank
don't
needs
want
to be
to. You don't need
replaced.
to
We don't have to
weld.
replace
You don't need to weld.
You don't want that?
You don't need to weld. That no less than every 5 years, the city-owned water tank located on South Ridge Road is completely repainted and updated as to the need of the current symbol, not asking to repaint it something different. That at any time over the course of the resolution, should inadequate funds or volunteers not be available for the needed maintenance and repair of the exterior of the water tank, the Cedar City Corporation, scrolling down, has the option to act in the best interest of its citizens. I would like these items to be included as part of the resolution, addendum language, if the resolution is passed this evening.
I have a question on the timing of the paint. I think the last time that water tank was painted was 1991. Am I correct in that, maybe? Was it 91? So that's been 28 years, is that right? So
Well, I took a stab in the dark. Maybe it's every 10 years. I don't know.
I'm thinking, my gut feeling is 10. I mean, I think if it's gone 30, it does need a fresh
it
coat of paint
does.
bad, but I think that every 10, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I think 10 might work.
And I would be fine with that. I would be fine with that. And then if I may, and then I'll try and step down so others can address. I'd also like to address some comments that occurred last week in regards to the subject of the water tank and my appearance that I lacked beliefs. So I want to share with you in attendance and those watching on live stream what I believe in and those values that guide my decisions in these chambers every week. So bear with me for just a moment. I believe our democracy was established so that law and order and general welfare is valued to all in this country and this community. I believe that no matter the issue we face as a nation, as a state, or as a community, we solve our differences through civil dialogue and mutual understanding. I believe that we may agree to disagree, but that everyone should be respected and heard with civility and humility. I believe in protecting our past and cherishing the hard work and dedication of those that came before, and believe we should foster and respect change. I believe that elders in any community should be respected for their wisdom and understanding. I believe government should not overreach. I believe that our young people are the future leaders of our great republic, and we must allow them the same opportunities to learn and fail as we have experienced. I believe that each of us in this wonderful community owe gratitude to all of those who offer public service for their hours of dedication and time. I believe that we are stronger when we work in harmony and for the common good. I believe this community must come together and we must move forward, or we are surely to step backwards. I believe that each of my daily decisions affect how I will meet my Maker, and I do so with humility and with an open heart. And finally, I say to you that I believe the future of Cedar City belongs to all of us, regardless of race, age, gender, social status, sexual orientation, religious affiliation, or disability. That's what guides my decisions in these chambers. Thank you.
Good job.
All right. Do you,
I'd
Okay,
like
so-
I'd like to make a few comments.
just to make things so we all understand, when we get to the motion, when we get to that part, for any of the amendment parts, we're going to have kind of go through those individually too,
Okay.
to figure out what would be in it, what wouldn't. But that's just so we're all on the same page. Okay. So Ron.
So I was absent last week, as you know, but I wasn't. I watched every minute, every second of the meeting last week, all 4 hours. I was a little more comfortable than the rest of my cohorts that I teased them about. But I did listen to the meeting and the comments, so I'm well aware of what was presented. There's a couple of things I've thought about. And as I've stated before, when they ask us, yes, I graduated from Cedar High School. Was a 9-letter athlete. I have a lot of passion for Cedar High School, and I always will. I've also come to realize that our society has changed a great deal from when I was in high school. And I say that because my friends from the Paiute tribe and the Navajos that I rubbed shoulders with at Cedar High referred to me as an artificial red man because I was not an Indian. And I was not offended by it by any means. It was just a matter of that's how we got along back then. In today's society, things have changed a great deal. And for lack of words, special interest groups come forward with proposed changes sometimes that I really don't understand why, they're coming forth other than just to make a change. The biggest thing is the water tank, and that is owned by the city. We have not had any complaints or any comments to remove the Redmond logo off the water tank prior, to the meetings. So I kind of feel like we're kind of getting ahead of the game due to the fact that I realize the school board has made their decision, and I can respect that. As I work for a governing body, we respect each other up here. We all have difference of opinion. That's what makes for good boards and good councils. I have dug a little deeper. I've got more detail than I had before I left. And some things have come to light to help me understand a little bit maybe why the decision was made, and that there is some concerns out there, which was never expressed in any of the prior meetings. I also feel like that the mascot change is going to take at least a year to get everything in place. I've confirmed that with several. And so I'm almost thinking, and I've mentioned this to a couple of my constituents, that the one thing I'd really like to look at is the wording in the document first. I've never really liked the word monument to be put on that. I would rather see something like a tribute, a marker, a landmark, something not related to that if this memorandum was put through. Now, of course, a memorandum, and I don't know if you're all aware of this, is a non-binding agreement. So we could come back next week and change it, even if it was voted on. So I don't know if the public understands that, but we do memorandums periodically rather than do ordinances as kind of a in-between way to talk about some issues.
You mean a resolution, right?
A resolution, sorry. I just, at this point, I'm just amazed that it's gotten to this point, of the bickering in Cedar City over such a, I don't know. I don't get it, but I'm old school. So I was taught by my parents to get along with everybody and respect everybody's opinion. And that occurred early on in my age, and in high school in particular. I was chosen to go to Boys State, and my roommate at Boys State was a Negro. And I could not believe the amount of people that said, "Are you going to sleep in the same room with him?" I said, "Absolutely. What's the deal?" "Well, he's black." I said, "I don't care. He's a person. He's a human being." I've never, ever looked at, another race as, that was just my upbringing. So I've respected all of them throughout my entire life. And I don't know how it got, quote, to that issue. So one thing I'm just going to mention in wrapping up, I don't want to carry on too long, but I'm almost at the point where I would just suggest that we table it. There's been nobody ask us to remove it. That way it stays there. I'm talking about tabling it indefinitely until maybe at a future date. If the high school decides on theirs and then approaches us, then we may have to open the discussion again. But in the meantime, it would sit there. And I'm saying that out of respect and want you to understand that I have an extreme passion, but I'm trying to take that out. And as Councilman Phillips has read his comments, I'm the same way. I never make decisions on this council, and I haven't done for the last 9.5 years, and letting passions override common sense or other things. That's not a good way to make decisions, to let your passions override the facts, the ordinances, the things that we have to work with, the tools, as our city manager calls them. I like that term, the tools, to make decisions. And so I want you to know that. Now, I know there's probably people in the room that'll say, you're full of crap. But that's not true. I do have a passion, but I'm trying to overlook the passion and make the best decision that we can for the entire city as a whole. Thanks.
And I respect that, Ron. I respect both you and Scott for what you've said. But I worry about this tank is in disrepair as far as the aesthetics of it. It desperately needs, it's been neglected for 30 years. We need to make a decision up or down. I mean, the school districts made their choice. We own the tank. We've decided to put the dates on it so it's not confusing to the youth. So they know this is in remembrance of a very proud time in our community when people, it was a sign of respect to the Native Americans as well as the pride of Cedar High School. And so with that, I would like to go ahead and and before I make my motion, I'd like to ask.
I think Terry and
Oh, I'm
Craig
sorry,
had,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, they wanted comments as well.
I think, I understand where you're coming from, and I am a firm believer in history, and certainly not rewriting that history. I am very troubled by a couple of things with respect to this. One, there are two boards that have been duly elected, a school board and a city council. And I don't think we should do each other's work. And so I'm concerned a little bit about putting ourselves into that discussion. Not that the choice to maintain the history of the tank is in any way negating what the school board can and has done, but I'm bothered by that. I just want to be very, very honest about that. The other thing, I say amen to Councilman Phillips' comments and Ron's comments and Tom Jett's comments. We are in this together, folks. We don't have our own separate planet. We don't have our own separate city. We are in this to work on it together. And the tenor of the discourse with respect to this issue has been wrong. And I want to publicly apologize. I wish I had that young lady's name from last week who came up and presented her position. And was shouted down and went out of here in tears. And Noah Denhalter, same thing, a student with opinions that were not respected. We can have common courtesy and civility in our discussions. And that part of all of this bothers me as much as anything else. The fact that we have not had that kind of discourse. I have said it in other meetings and I will say it again. Wise man once said, never let a problem to be solved be more important than a person involved. And from my perspective, there are a lot of open points. Whether we call this a monument or we have some other kind of a monument, maybe we call it a historical marker, whatever, that wording didn't seem right to me. But I would like to get the sides together like we have on other tough issues in this city, like short-term rentals, the student housing district, dogs. We have gotten together and we've talked it through and we've looked each other in the eye and we've respected each other's opinions. And I would like to see that happen before we put a punctuation point or a period on this discussion. That's just my feeling.
Well, I would echo everything that my fellow council people have expressed. As I've looked at all of the issues and talked to a lot of people, a lot of emails, a lot of communications, looked at all sides of it. It really got me thinking about those two students that came in and they wanted to be part of the discussion and to express their wishes in there, and they were booed and heckled. And I was very disappointed to see that, because that can discourage them from wanting to participate in their community and their government. It got me thinking, who really is important in this discussion? Is it us in this room or is it our students? And I think that we're leaving them out of the equation. Our students' ability to choose their mascot and what they want on that water tank, it's every bit as important as what our views in this room are. I think anything that we consider, we should put the students and our children and our community at the forefront of everything that we decide, if it has to do with their high school. As a proud Redmond, I'm disappointed to see my mascot has been used as a weapon against others, and I'm just sorely disappointed to see what has happened in our community. By not supporting the resolution as it's written, I don't want it to be seen that I don't support the mascot. I love the mascot. I loved being a Redmond, but I don't think the resolution, the way it is currently drafted, I don't think it accomplishes what we're trying to do. And I would support a motion to table that. All of us have had different comments and suggestions on, I also didn't like it to be called a monument, not really comfortable with that wording. There's some other wording in there as far as that suggestions that I have. I think we should table it until we get it right. I think we should work together with the school. I've received emails from teachers, those people that are working close to our students who are pleading, don't do this, please wait. These kids want to unite behind their new mascot, and they're wanting to work together and work together with those students in our school district. And so I would hope that we could work together and maybe honor the Redmond mascot and the new mascot. I'm not saying take it down, but maybe we need to do that. I suggested last week that we create a monument on the Cedar High School grounds on their campus, something that could honor the Paiutes, that could tell the history and whatnot. And I would like to see our efforts be moved towards that type of a project instead of perpetuating this divide in our community.
I'd like to just say something. I'm doing this my daughter right there is adopted from China. 16 years ago, we went to China and brought her home as a little baby. And she's a proud Redmond, and she's Chinese. And I'm really doing this for her. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this resolution as written.
With the dates.
With the
That
dates added.
version.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? No. Okay. Then that motion fails for lack of a second. Is there any other motions?
I would like to make a motion that we table this and work together with Tyler as far as submitting our suggestions and comments, and that we can all get together and come together on a final resolution that we can consider at a later meeting, maybe even the next work meeting.
I second that.
Okay. Then
I would just say one thing. If we're doing this at the next work meeting, I would ask that maybe we delay it,
Yeah,
as
I was gonna
Councilman
say,
Cousins will not be
because our
here.
next work meeting's next Wednesday. So do you want it pushed to?
And I'd like Councilman Cousins to be
Because you're
here.
gone for the next two.
I'll be here the next. I'm just missing this.
So the work meeting. So you,
So the next work meeting.
The next work
it would be
So it'd be
July, whatever week that is.
I have a question though, Terry. I've got a question. What is it in the resolution? It's very simple. It's just honoring the past. It's honoring a symbol that's been there for 50 years. If we want to change it from a monument to a landmark, I don't care. I'll accept an amendment to the motion. I could care less what we call it, whether it's a monument, a landmark, whatever, final resting place, whatever we want to call it.
And you were fine with my 3 points as long as we change the time frame on the
Sure,
exterior.
absolutely. Do we really want to go through this and delay? Why don't we just make an up or down decision on this?
we want to go through this because there needs to be a healing.
What?
Well,
We need
right
to work
now,
together.
What kind of healing? I mean, I would submit.
Shake your heads all you want.
I would submit that if you take that down, it'll be, if you preserve that in honor of the past, it's going to bring this community together. If you destroy it, it's not.
Nobody
truly
is
believe that.
suggesting we take it off.
We're not suggesting that at
why
all.
do we
No
not-
one has asked to take it off. It would stay there. Nothing would
What is
happen to it.
It needs to be painted so bad. It's so unsightly.
Nobody says it couldn't be painted.
So what in the resolution? I just have a question. What in the resolution is so troubling?
I like some of Scott's suggestions. I also,
And they're great. I would
yeah,
gladly accept those.
calling it a marker or a tribute or whatnot.
I couldn't accept that.
There was some other wording
Well,
about
I
it
think one
being.
of the comments that someone made, I'm not sure who it was, that we look at the notion of maybe incorporating somehow into this new design the new mascot as well. And I don't mean on top of the symbol, but somehow it's incorporated. Because
inclusive.
I'm assuming, and again, I do not know this, but I'm guessing the school colors will remain the same. Will they not? The yellow and the gold. I mean, the red and the gold.
I
The
thought
crimson
they
and
were.
gold.
but just for clarification, we do have a motion and a second on tabling it until July 3rd.
And then there was a question on the motion.
Yes. So
Well, does that give time to meet with who, would like to discuss? To get a group together and,
Reach out.
We've been talking about this for 3 weeks.
well, yeah, but I mean,
I
get
don't know why
some,
anybody didn't come forward before now to
get some
give their
students
input.
to,
I really
Well,
don't
the
understand.
people that expressed to me, they're fearful of coming and voicing their opinion in public. You see what the
Yeah,
two
I got
young
some of those
people,
emails as well.
there are teachers and whatnot that will not come to this meeting because they're afraid of the repercussions from coming and expressing anything in opposition. So that's why they haven't come forward.
So
I think more importantly than anything, I think we need to come to an agreement here of what it is we're wanting, and then finding out if it meets the needs of those other audiences that we're talking about.
I mean, I would want to have something in that resolution that included that we were going to be inclusive, not limiting this just to the Redmond on the water tank with the dates. That's what I think we need to consider and think about.
motion to table until,
Maybe we don't put a date on it.
That's what I'd suggest. But
okay, so you want a motion just to table it, work on it, and then bring it back?
But
Yeah.
in the fairness of transparency, when that time does come, when we feel ready, we must let the public know.
Oh,
So we are
Yeah,
doing this in
exactly.
full transparency of everyone.
yes. I mean, it will be before another public meeting.
Right.
And it's a resolution, so it
So-
still has to be a roll call vote.
I would like to set a date and address this, give us a couple weeks, let maybe not the next work, maybe 2 more work meetings, and we give all of our input and come up with a plan.
July 17th?
2 more ones.
Better. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So do you want to,
Okay.
Okay, I'll add that July 17th.
July 17th work meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the motion. Is it,
Second.
you're still seconding? Okay, it's a roll call vote, so we'll start with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Okay, so as for right now, this is tabled until July 17th. Okay. We're gonna give a tiny bit of time so that if people are leaving, then we can get to. So my. That's all. Okay. I'll let Terry get back in here. Okay. So item number 18, consider various conceptual plans and estimates for development of the Aquatic Center property.
So, excuse me. Staley Rec Management has ran the ice rink up there for a couple of years now, and before them, the Yeti Group ran it. And Staley Rec came to the city in, I think it was April, and asked the city to enter a memorandum of understanding with them so they could start pursuing some donation and funding options. They've been working on their end. The city at the same time, staff has been working with the architect who designed the original complex. And we've asked him to give us some ideas on how we could develop both on that same property, both the gyms and the ice rink. And I've attached his conceptual sketches to your packet information. The first one, basically, the first sketch option basically put the gym on the front half of the aquatic center, just to the south and west of the existing main entrance. And when we showed that to staff and council and the mayor, nobody really liked that one because it kind of had a blocky access, and aesthetically from the main road, it probably didn't look.
Although I will
good.
tell you, I've reassessed that
I have
in
to.
discussions with staff, and I'm not as opposed to that as I was initially.
So,
So we didn't get costs on that one.
Okay.
We got costs on the latter two. The latter two involved building the gyms on the northeast corner of the building where they were originally programmed to be, and the ice rink moving west of the building, or the opposite of that. The gyms west of the building, the ice rink where the gyms were originally programmed to be. So to build the gyms where they were originally programmed to be, we got some cost estimates. Now these are just estimates based on a rendering from the architect. These are not fully engineered plans and drawings. They are not hard bids. So these numbers are just estimates. They're not going to stay the same over time. But they give us a foundation to start moving forward. The estimated cost to build the gyms on the northeast corner of the aquatic center is $3,585,339. The estimated cost to build the gyms to the west of the aquatic center and the north end of the parking lot is $4,394,809. The estimated cost to build the pavilion ice facility on the northeast corner of the aquatic center is $1,892,775. And the estimated cost to build the ice rink west of the aquatic center to the north end of the parking lot is $3,408,024.
Do both of those include equipment? They don't. The $1,892,000 doesn't.
For the ice,
Yeah.
I have subtracted the amount for the ice equipment. That's $1,045,000. That's the estimated cost.
Either
for
way
that.
we go.
Yeah. And I have subtracted those just so we can have a level comparison.
Okay.
But we can add them in. I've got those numbers right here. If you want to add them in, we can do that one.
No, that's okay. I just want to know apples to apples. Okay.
So for the city, just
We have seen this in detail, by the way, just so
Yeah.
you know.
for the city, if the ice rink isn't involved, it's financially in our best interest to build the gyms where they were programmed to be built. We've already done a lot of earthwork back there. We've already prepped the foundations to a certain extent. We have a couple of the walls already built. We would have access to our restrooms and our locker rooms and all of those facilities that are already designed into our existing building. Our access through the front doors of the building would remain the same, and we would be able to utilize the traffic flow that we have now. It would mean utilizing the building the way it was intended to be utilized. Plus, it costs $800,000 less to build the gyms in that corner than it does to move them to the west.
Can that image be put on this screen?
What?
We're looking at the image here. I was wondering if it could be put on this
Yeah,
screen for
we're-
the audience.
It
He's
is.
just getting it up.
So financially, it's more effective for us to build it where
The
it was
gyms.
proposed. Yeah.
Mhm.
When I say it, I mean the gyms, where the gyms were proposed to be built. Now, the directions that staff had after the last set of meetings was trying to find a way to facilitate both the ice rink and the gyms. That's what we've been working towards. Staley Rec has went out and they've done some work to get some financing options and also some work to get some donations. And Dallin can speak to that. In order to facilitate both of them, it's going to be more expensive for us. We would have to have a financial contribution towards the ice rink as well.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing for the ice rink at this point is they want to know where they're going to be able to develop. I know Dallin's developed a timeline for his operation that has them ready to construct in the next year or so or less. I know the city's timeline is not that aggressive. All along, we've maintained that we're going to pay off the debt on the Heritage Theater before we do the gyms. That debt doesn't get retired till 2021. So we've got a little more time.
I'd like to hear from Dal and hear about the options that he thinks would be feasible and the pros and cons of each.
Does the council have any questions on the information that was just presented really
thank you.
quick?
No,
In fact,
no, that was very helpful. And
We've had the opportunity to each individually meet with Alan,
Okay.
walk the property out there. And so come on up, Diane.
So maybe that might help you understand when we went out there individually with Dallin and have walked it, rather than like looking at these shots and walking the property, we kind of come to the consensus that for the gym on the southwest side is more aesthetically and it works better. There's one big problem that was pointed out to us, that if we put the gym on the front of the building, it's either got to be a standalone structure or the ice people have to walk all the way around the gym and back to the rink. They don't have a really good pathway
Well, that was
to
one of
get
the
back
advantages
there.
of putting the ice on the west side of the building. They would have parking next to them. They would have their own entrance. They would have absolutely zero conflicts with
Right.
traffic with our folks.
But doesn't it cost about $650,000 more to do that?
Additional cost to both of them.
I think it's about $1 million or $1.5 million.
Yeah, it
different.
actually was closer, like around 800,000, I think, because if we put
No, it's 800,000.
Yeah.
But
Close to it.
in it,
But if it makes the best sense for the gym to ultimately build where they were planned for, we might still want to look at a community public-private partnership and investment,
right,
as long as details can be worked out that the city has some sort of advantage in making that kind of investment in this project. And so I think those are the kind of details that we still need to sit down and talk about to find out what would be in the city's best interest to try and get both projects taken care of for the city and for our community.
right. Because I think the consensus is still, we want to move both venues forward.
Yeah.
We just need to figure out the best way. And if it makes more sense to put the gym on the back where it was intended, even though it costs us more, then like in the long run, maybe we need to do that. But do you want to come up and kind of talk about what your thoughts after meeting with everybody and all our varied opinions?
I'm Dallin Staley with the ice rink.
Good job.
I'm getting good at this. I've been here way too much.
Well, Tom comes every week and he still can't get his name right.
Yeah, he's old though.
Oh, man.
Sorry, Tom.
Whoa.
Just kidding.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'll give you just some of my thoughts. It was even really good for me. I actually really enjoyed the fact that we all kind of went individually and got good input, not just from the council members that were up there, but the staff members that were available to go around with us too. So, and hopefully, I mean, if we need some thoughts from some of the other staff members, that's great too. So yeah, I guess my thoughts are, I think Paul did a pretty good job of kind of summing up the last few weeks of what we've done and kind of where we're at, that we would like to have some direction, and not just some direction, but some fairly secure direction, I guess, knowing that the efforts we put in going forward are going to come to pass and not be reconsidered over and over. But yeah, I guess walking around with all you guys and doing it over and over and over again kind of gave me the chance to work through in my mind some of the pros and cons that I see, and keep in mind that this is all from my perspective. So I guess take it for what it's worth. But I kind of, in my mind, I think a lot of the pros of both of these, they share a lot of the same advantages for wanting to go in the spot where the ice rink currently is. Whichever one goes there is going to benefit a lot from what the city already did when the facility was built. The fact that a lot of things are already in place. Utilities are closer by, some walls are built. So I think they'll share a lot of that, and whichever one doesn't go there kind of loses that benefit. As we went out and just kind of stood in the site where the ice rink is, to me, and you guys may agree or disagree, I think it kind of stood out for me that one advantage that the ice rink would have in that location over the gym. A gym is 4 walls, so as soon as you set foot in there, there's really no advantage to being in any certain place when you're in there. I liked the fact that when we kind of went and stood out there where the public would be kind of facing the outdoors in our plan, that we could hear the people on the beach playing in the water and having fun. And I could imagine the music.
That's in the summertime, not December.
Well, there is the polar plunge, but that's only once a year. Yeah, for that time of the year when the lake is active, that for me, I could imagine the music playing and kind of the shared benefit that you would have by having concessions right there and having a good access from the beach to the rink and vice versa. So I feel like that's maybe one thing that you would lose slightly, but not completely in a different place. It would just be further away, and in some way they'd still all kind of complement each other. One thing that I thought it was really helpful to look at the southwest option for the gym with the staff that were there to kind of share their insights. I think that the flow of the building, and this is just my opinion, but I don't think that you lose anything functionally by having the building in that location. I know Chris mentioned that there was some upsides in that the staff member, whoever's manning the front desk, has a view right through the doors into the gym, and potentially, especially during slower use times, there's an operational advantage, maybe an efficiency advantage to being right there in the lobby. I think you could imagine that the lobby could be shared by users of the gym in that location a lot better than it could be shared way down the hall. Concessions are really close by, which I assume gym users are going to also be pretty good customers of the concessions, and having that literally 2 steps out the door as opposed to all the way up the hall, I think are just some maybe logistical benefits. Ken can give his input on this because I'm not up there running it. I didn't hear really any logistical downsides from Jen and Chris as we walked around to having it in that location.
In fact, if Jen gets her nursery, her daycare,
then everything shares a lobby.
Everything would be right there.
Yeah. So
Which
I think
we need to fold into our discussions.
Yeah. So again, just the disclaimer again, that this is just my opinion, but I actually think the flow is very good with the gym in that location, and maybe even some efficiency that you could get there. With the ice rink in the other proposed location, there is the benefit of it being a little easier accessed. You can drive up to the door. I think that is a good advantage. I don't know that there's really any advantage to it besides that. I've also taken the liberty to invite contractors, Phil Schmidt. I've invited him up there to see the site. And this is not unique to the ice rink, but it's definitely, there's a lot more to do to get that site ready for anything that you build there. And this is talking about the northwest spot where the proposed ice rink could move. From what I gathered there, that's really probably a less suitable site for a big building than maybe the gym on the southwest, because you'd have to put in some retaining walls. Also, I talked to Kit today, and the proposed footprint of that Mark put on there did cut into the fence a little. So me and Kit kind of determined that the whole building would have to shift, and I don't know how many feet, but I assume it's 12 or 15 feet.
Wouldn't that totally cover the entrance? I mean, if you shift to the south that much.
So the rink already would come out on the south edge of the rink, would be kind of basically flush with the south edge of kind of that entryway.
But if you moved it 15
so
more
it'd
feet,
come
it's
further
all-
out. It would probably come into that row of parking stalls where his cursor is in that case. So I think there is some disadvantages to building there. The building also kind of overlaps the drop off. So there would be a lot of fill, retaining walls.
You're talking about on the north side?
Yeah. With the rink on the north side. So
Well, that would probably happen with either building, wouldn't it?
if the building was there,
Yeah.
if the gym moved down to the south,
Right.
then
But if any building went on the west, whether it's the rink or the gym, you'd still have to do that backfill. And
yeah. So Phil just kind of felt like, yeah, any building. This is kind of general, but that's a less suitable place for any building than putting it over here where everything's a little more flat and it's not as close to the dam and some of the stuff that's over there. So I'm just trying to think of all kind of the pros and cons that have run through my head.
If you're gonna talk, will you come up to the microphone?
Come on, Jeff, get up
there. I know what I could. So one thing that's been brought up is that potentially, and this is a big potential, so I want to be upfront with that this is only potential. It's probably unlikely that with the rink further out that there would really be any return on investment in trying to pipe pool water all the way up and all the way back to have any heat exchange. And in all fairness, there may not be a good return on investment even if it did go in there.
Right. That's something we just don't know right.
So we've heard a lot about that possibility for months and months, but we haven't seen any numbers.
Yeah, and I've tried to get them to kind of give us numbers, and I don't know if they're just waiting until we are ready to kind of officially
Hard to
kick
base a
something off.
decision on something we don't know if it's going to pan out or not.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's a big if. So I don't know that that's something that should play into your decision.
It sounds good if it works, but we don't even know.
Yep, I agree.
I have a
agree.
question about parking. If the rink were on that northeast corner, can we open up parking in the back over by the lake and have that have access?
We did that in
To
the
the
winter
rink?
time, Craig, and I bought some temporary fencing to fence that off the lake so it's safe,
Yeah.
so they can use
Yeah.
that. We did that, and that fencing's still up there. I think they still use it sometimes.
Okay.
And we
So
did
they can
that-
open the gate.
So
use
that could be done so that,
I think
so
so.
that access issue, because I thought having the rink out on the west side would be wonderful for all that gear and everything else. It'd be a great access. But if we can accomplish the same thing back on the back, that would.
Yeah, and I can give my opinion on that. I know that the lake has to be closed, so that's the biggest thing. It has to be closed in the winter. So I know there's development plans for the.
Can I just speak to that? Because we
Yes.
closed the
You
lake.
still have to say your name.
Oh, sorry. Ken Nelson, Leisure Services. Because we closed the lake for liability, that would be a nightmare for having kids get on the ice because that's why the lake is closed all year.
Well, we've done that for years, Ken. Before you came, we've put temporary fencing up, and we've done it for years so that people
I'm
could.
guessing we could end up with removable fencing or.
Well, that's what we had. We've had
It's a
removable
lot
fencing.
it's a lot of worry on liability in my aspect because
We've done it for 5 years.
Can any more parking be developed to the north in that sort of gray area right there?
That's up on the
Oh.
hill. That's
No,
where-
I'm sorry. Further to the west. Right there.
That's paved.
Oh, it is paved. It currently is paved. It's just not okay. Got it.
Google's slow. Sorry.
All right.
So Ken, we did that temporary fencing along the lake and it's worked fine. And we could even improve that and do something more permanent with some gates or something, but
well,
it
I
worked.
just wanted to suggest that there's a liability issue with the lake because sometimes it freezes and then other times because of the bubblers, it doesn't. And so it's not solid. So that's why we closed the lake is we can't have anybody venturing in there because if the kid went far enough, he'd really be in trouble. So that's why it's that way.
Dallin Staley again. What's our city parks guy that takes care? Wade. So yeah, Wade met me up here too. We just kind of happened on each other. So we were talking about this, but what Wade suggested, because we mentioned that exactly that we expand the parking up there and that there is room to do that. What he said is that from his perspective, he's the one that goes up and locks the gate to keep people out. He said, functionally, from his perspective, we'd just have to make sure to fence the beach. So he suggested you could just tie into the existing fence along the top side of the beach up to the restrooms and then back to wherever the parking ended. And he said, as long as there's the barrier there, it really doesn't matter if it's 10 feet to the south or 20 feet to the north. You can hop one fence as easy as you could hop the other fence. So
The challenge with that gate when it's closed, people drive up there and then they can't turn around. And with the gate open, they can go up and turn around and park and watch the games from up above.
yeah. So anyway, you could ask Wade to get it straight from the horse's mouth, but that was what Wade and I talked about for that possibility. So I guess maybe I've got a long list of pros and cons. They kind of go both ways. But kind of the general feeling, I guess, as we all met up there, I think it was fairly well agreed between everyone. At least this is the impression that I got, that we're all committed to making both of these work in the future. So
Yes.
It's absolutely true.
So that means a financial commitment beyond what we otherwise would have had to one or the other, to whichever one moves. And we did get the estimates. So according to the estimates that the city obtained, to move the gym would cost an extra $800,000. To move the ice rink would cost an extra $1.45 million, roughly. So there's about a $650,000 difference in what it would cost to move one or the other. I think there are some operational benefits to having the rink where we wanted it, just for kind of that, I guess, atmosphere, and with the future development of the lake in mind. My opinion, once again, but I don't see a lot of operational downsides to moving the gym to the southwest, which would have been the option one.
Yeah, of course, we don't have any numbers on
I was
that
going to say
to
that
look at.
when we,
Yeah,
Should be similar. You're just shifting.
Mark told me that they would be very similar. I mean, the footprint's the same. You got to tear out the parking lot and build a building. So he said they'd be very similar, especially where this is conceptual. That conceptually they're going to come out very similar.
And forgive me, I just don't recall. Was there ever one of the options considered was to put the ice rink on the southwest side and tie into the pool and everything for atmosphere you're talking about? Was that ever even considered? I don't recall.
It wasn't considered, and I don't think it would be a good consideration unless we were considering a fully enclosed. But we'd have a much bigger footprint with the ice rink. Would push out further in both ways.
Okay.
So probably not a good.
Oh yeah.
Equipment room.
See, one of the unique parts of this is that outdoor feel. I just
Pool
to have that open to the north.
It would be on the other
and to the west and to the east, I guess.
Yeah. So I think those are kind of my pros and cons. You're welcome to ask any other questions.
I have a thought. I just want to throw this out. So we've got Mark Wilson's architect. He originally designed this building, and I think he's a really good architect. And I'm just going to throw this out there. What if we basically defer to him as the expert and say, Mark, and take all of the opinions, all the bias of or political aspects, take it all out. Say, Mark, independently, kind of like mediation.
Sure.
Mark, you decide where you think it would be best to put whichever, and then we'll abide by what your recommendation is. Will that work for everybody?
So one thought: if you fall in love with the aesthetic of the ice rink in the back and looking out over the hills and the lake and all that, to put the gym on the front, you're going to put a solid cinder block wall fronting the street almost out to the sidewalk. And it's going to be 30 foot high. And it's going to have no windows and no character.
Well, when we looked at it, the pool is already that high. I mean,
the walls for the gym will be higher.
Okay, and the roof slopes down on the front. But when we looked at putting it on the front of where the offices are, that's got the low roof. Then all of a sudden you're going to have a tall gymnasium.
You could put windows in it. You could put windows in it, Paul.
Yeah.
You can.
Windows in the gym work as good as windows in a black box theater.
You got me there, partner.
Different deal.
I
Why
thought
can
you
you
were
put
in
windows
agony
at the
over
top, up high?
The college gym looks pretty nice and it fronts the street, but
yeah.
The sunlight effect that play.
Ken Nielsen, Leisure Services. So the university gym has windows that face the north. The windows that face the east and the west, they hope they never had, because the sun comes in and there's nothing to keep it from shining on the floor. So when you're playing, you get this nice bright light from the sun. So if the gym is on that southwest, you'll get south window and west window. Can't have any windows. So the other aspect to look at is Cedar High Auxiliary has little windows at the top on the west. They ended up having to cover those up when the sun shines because it directly puts a light on the floor, and you can't have programming with bright lights
So
Kind
could
of like
you-
putting a window in a black box theater.
The people in your offices were a little anxious about having their view completely removed. They wanted
Just so it isn't
whatever
solid
was built to
cinder
be
block
built
wall.
out far enough so they had.
Ken, could they put windows just for the aesthetics from the exterior, but cover them for the lighting issue?
So you couldn't even have emergency doors on that southwest, which you'd have to have, because how are you going to cover those up? So if you look
but
at,
emergency doors don't need to be glass. They can be solid.
well, I'm just saying there can't be any kind of glass facing the street
I understand.
or facing west, because it just is no way to keep the direct light.
Yeah, but we have
from-
emergency doors over at this Beverly Center that are not glass at all. They're
You'd
just
have to
solid
have
metal.
that all the way, but that's what Paul is
And if there's an
saying.
emergency, you don't care if light's coming in or not. You're getting out of the building.
Yeah, the looks of it's going to be a box.
Yeah.
And it's going to have no windows facing the street or facing west.
I think we take all these concerns, the lighting, the aesthetics, everything, and give it to Mark and let him and see what he recommends.
So Mark's been employed by both parties. And I don't know how he becomes the independent
money.
third party in all of this.
My advice is the city council's role is to say how we use public property. I would not delegate that to anyone else.
Well, but he can bring some ideas back. We make the final decision, of course.
Yeah.
But he, leave it. Let's give him all the facts. Let him come up with what he recommends, and then we can make a decision.
Well, I think he already did that with these options, didn't he?
Not aesthetically, and not with these other concerns.
Yeah.
Is there a problem with the gym or with the locker room location?
Well, if you put the gym on the southwest, the reason the locker rooms are arranged where they are, from what I can fathom with the building, is to serve the swimming pool and to serve the gymnasium when it was there. That's why they're located where they are. If you have if you break into tournaments and those kind of aspects that we want to bring into a gymnasium aspect, you have to have locker facilities, and there's no way to get to those unless you have a long walk. So if you put a gymnasium to the west, you're going to have to have restroom facilities.
Mhm.
You're just going to have to.
The restrooms are right there, Ken, right there by
No, I
this.
think
thing.
Ken's talking about west.
On the west.
On the northwest.
I thought we decided that wouldn't work.
If you put the gyms back there, the
Yeah, that's
cost
what
for
he
the gyms are going to go up because the estimates don't include sewer, water, locker rooms, restrooms, or any of that.
I thought that
And
was
that's
off the
why those
table.
costs went up for the ice rink, because they did include all those kinds of things.
So, yeah, I mean, if you put the gyms over to the west and this field kind of over by the baseball fields and the lake, our costs will go up commensurate with adding restrooms.
I thought that was off the table because of the problems with ice skaters walking that far and the compromising the dam, like you brought up, and some
I
of those.
don't think it got into the dam. When I talked to Mark, we had to relocate the fence, but it never even hit the toe of the dam.
Ken, if we do start bringing in tournaments, wherever the gymnasium is located, are the current locker rooms adequate to handle tournaments? Or are we just sort of kicking this down the road?
Yes, that's why single restrooms don't work. But locker rooms are. Those locker rooms can handle those kind of programming. That's
A number
why.
of teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a single bathroom doesn't help you in that situation because you got multiple kids changing and multiple teams coming in.
How much further is it, Ken, if you put the gyms where it was originally designed to the locker rooms versus where it would be up there? How much further is it? A lot further? Or?
No, the locker rooms where they currently, if the gym was to go where it's currently designed, the locker rooms are right outside the door and maybe 30 yards.
And then what about the other one? How far? We ought to measure that, just get some information.
The southwest one is what he's talking about.
It's a little bit further, but I don't
It's
know
a
if
long-
it's, do most people when they come to play basketball, do they just change their shoes, or do they?
Well, you have to make it available, whether they do or whether they don't. You
Yeah,
can't.
it'd be available, but it'd just be a little bit.
You have to say, here's a locker room, here's a facility. These are the things that are available. The other aspect is when teams come, it's not really us running the tournament. We're more or less renting the facility. We don't want a lot of staff and a lot of O&M costs because we just want one person there to open the door and they're running the tournament. And that's the end of it. We don't want to police the whole building with staff because that defeats the purpose of having a tournament. It's like baseball tournament.
And does that help you then with the southwest location? Because a person could conceivably see into the gymnasium from the front desk?
No, I don't know if that's been determined because I think it changes the whole front desk outlook. And then you have then you change the direction, the way the pool is structured with the rolling doors, and I don't think that it's been looked at in the total concept. But this thing that staff, when we looked at originally, we didn't like the aesthetics of it, but I don't like it personally because I ran a gym with windows for 23 years and I know what works and what doesn't, and windows on the west and the south, they don't work.
Okay, no window.
So you have a box.
If we put it on the southwest, then the architect has to come up with something that makes it not just a box. It's got to have some aesthetic design to it.
So if you were in the gym was in the original
That's
location
their challenge
of where the ice rink currently is, you could have windows that outlook the lake from the indoor track because you never have sunshine come in there. So then your natural light can come in just like it does at the SUU indoor track. The windows are on the north because the sun never hits that. But as soon as the sun comes in on the east and goes down on the west, it affects our programming.
Well, for me, I think we should be looking at both these projects, and I think there's a general consensus for that. What I would like to do is I don't think we're prepared to make a decision on this tonight financially, one way or the other, but I do think we want to move ahead on this, and I think, but we should sit down now and say, if the city is willing, and that's a decision we've got to make as a council, is willing to invest some additional funds to keep the gyms in the original location and move the ice rink or vice versa, what is in it for the city as well if additional investments are made to city recreation management? But those kind of things have to be sat down and talked about before we can make a decision on this.
So would you like to?
Well, I think, I'm not prepared to make a decision on this tonight as to which direction it should go.
Were you going to make a?
I would love to hear from the architect in the context that Paul suggested, right? And that is just what's his feeling from an architectural standpoint, just how he views these options. And I don't know, can we?
So would you like this item tabled and keep doing some work?
We owe these guys a decision. We have debated this for 3 years, and I think we need to make a decision. I think we need, Dallin, what do you, what's the drop dead date for you to be able to get this done? You need to get going.
Now, remember what you told me.
Dallin Staley. So again, I've talked to all of you. I think some of you are more ready to make a decision than others. So I guess I'll dance around it a little bit, Paul. Sorry. I really don't want anyone to feel pushed to make a decision that they're not ready to make. And on the other side of that, I really don't want to be drug out forever. So
sure.
I'm not going to pound the table and ask for a straight up or down or vote to give us $1.5 million tonight. But I think it might be reasonable to ask that we really make a decision in the action meeting 2 weeks from now.
What kind of decision are you looking for? Are you just looking for a location or a commitment financially, or what are you looking for?
So I guess the way I see it, if you decide that the rink is a good idea to go in the northeast side, in the location where it's currently at, then that's the decision we're looking for, and that's about the only decision we need, at least to get started with the contract, and then we have another decision to make. But so that's the decision we need that way. If we're looking at changing locations, then we need that decision.
Yep.
And
what that cost is going to be and how that financial impact is going to work, and what is the city's commitment to that financial package, yes or no.
Yeah.
And then if we can do that whole thing in 2 weeks
Well,
to say,
that's what we need to hear from you guys.
Let's move the rink to the west and we're going to commit X amount of dollars.
Okay,
Yeah,
We got to first decide where we want to put the ice rink and where we want to put the gyms.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
we can discuss with Staley Rec Management on how we proceed with both.
Yeah, if it's staying in its location, I don't think we need a lot of other drug out things because we're kind of ready to go there. If it is moving, we need that decision. If that decision is made, though, I would like to ask that the council, in making that decision, would kind of de facto be telling us that they would be comfortable putting somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 million towards the project
I think
and
that
bringing
is so
the utilities.
dangerous to give a wink and a nod during a motion in a
I
meeting.
And I don't ask
totally
to do that,
agree.
but-
That's what I've been waiting to say. I think the city as a whole needs to put together like some kind of presentation, whether it's a spreadsheet or something, when we come to some consensus to say, this is what we're looking at doing, because it's representing a large amount of taxpayer funding to do this. And I think that we need to be fully transparent. We can't make a decision like that, especially tonight. I told Dallin this week, there's no way I would be prepared to make a decision because I don't think this has been disclosed properly. There's a lot of other questions. You know, what else in the contract are we going to agree to? Are we going to pay $85,000 a year for the next 20 years? That's another $1.7 million that we would be putting taxpayer money into it. We're providing the parking and the maintenance. I think that needs to be talked about, that we don't, this is a public-private partnership, but we don't provide those services for other business in town. And we've got to make sure that we present this in a way that it's like, this is for our citizens and whatnot. This isn't for Staley's to run a business. This is providing a service for our citizens. And I don't think we're really close to doing that. And that's kind of what I told Dallin when we met this week, that it's like there's so much that
Here's my
needs to be
concern,
worked out.
Mr. Bittman. If we go ahead and make the decision and we decide to, let's just say that the decision was that we're going to leave the gymnasiums in the original location, and we all agree verbally that we want the ice rink to go to the northwest. But then so we've made that decision, but then the conversations continue and we continue to have the dialogue about the costs and things, and they don't work, then we may end up losing the ice rink altogether. And I want to go through this in a way that the package can be put together so both things can happen.
I think we're close to losing them. I mean, these guys are, the difference, Terry, is these guys are bringing $2.8 million of the value to the table. I don't see any other companies offering that. That's
But you
amazing to
do
me.
realize we're, in essence, funding a large share of that back to them by paying the utilities.
Well, yeah,
as
sure.
part of our partnership.
Sure, absolutely.
But it's being represented that they're just giving the city $3 million carte blanche.
No, we've talked about that the whole time. The 85,000. We've talked about it for many meetings.
Yes and no.
I mean, we have, but
Yeah.
But I want to make sure the public's aware of that.
Yes, we have, but I don't think the public is aware of all of this. That's my concern. I don't think it's completely transparent to the public.
I just think we drag it out too long to where it doesn't work for these guys. They're just going to give up, go home.
And maybe just to the point that you're giving it to us to run a business. So I've been the face, but I am not the board. We have a board of 9 people.
Yeah,
That's not just me.
Yeah,
And-
I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing. That's why I was making a point. This is a partnership. So please.
So just
don't
on the record,
misunderstand
though,
that.
for anyone else watching, this isn't for us to run a business. There is a fair financial risk to us that we may even be subsidizing it, just like the city is.
Substantial.
And
So
so our only motivation here is to provide something good for the city. Really, what we're trying to provide is no different than what the city's trying to provide with a gym. You're trying to provide an opportunity for the people of the city. That's all we're trying to help with. So,
and the money compensated, whether one goes here or there, it's just money that's going to be added, whether you build one, in either location. It's all it is. So I think it's.
And I think to Scott's point, maybe one of my biggest concerns is, in a way, I'm at my wit's end. And if we say we're changing locations, but then we say, now we got to negotiate this and negotiate that, it's fairly cut and dry what we can accept. If it changes locations, according to the estimates, and to go through and get solid hard
Well, that's
bid
why I'm
quotes
saying
and
that
everything.
I personally am willing to sort of talk about some kind of a financial package to
Yeah.
assist that.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm saying.
But,
That would,
but I don't know what that is. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the return back to the city is for that. You know, do we all get free passes for 10 years? I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I mean, we've got to
Just
work
you.
out the details.
Yeah.
Well, I don't skate very
Here's
well.
an
so you-
idea. What about if in the next couple of weeks we try to set up meetings with Mark the architect to discuss the different pros and cons, because that's one that we're still not all clear on.
Mhm.
We can try to set up meetings with council in groups of 2
And sort of talk about some of the financial
and talk
packaging.
about some of the different financial things, because we haven't done the cost estimates to
Right.
move it to option 1, which is the other corner.
But
And we-
Dallin, please know, we want both projects to happen.
yeah. And I feel that from you. I do believe that you want that. I guess the only thing I don't want is a perpetual
Yeah, I understand.
evaluation
Don't either.
and changing
Well,
plan.
I
And
think everyone wants a decision.
Yeah.
It's just what's the best long-term decision for all the entities involved.
Maybe in the next
Yep.
14 days,
Yep.
if we can get together and get some information and get the architect here, as you suggest, Mayor, we could do that.
Yes. So
Alan, would you clarify one point that we haven't discussed?
sure.
I know I've on the one committee I sit on, my group it was always one reason they want the gyms left where they're at is because the elevator's there and they were going to have the walking track around the top. That was all part of the original thing. And I know that's a big concern, and I don't remember, is why I'm asking you now, in your concepts or whatever, with your openness, you weren't able to provide that, were you? And that was one of the issues of moving the gyms, because we have a $300,000 in elevator already in that we could use by leaving the gyms there.
Yeah.
So maybe you could tell, I don't remember. That's why I've got to ask you again.
Yeah. So yeah, the elevator's there. The elevator was in the estimate for moving the gyms. So in that 800,000 of extra cost for the gyms included the elevator cost to add the walking track.
But you had no walking track in yours.
So in the
I remember.
original,
Is that right?
in the original design of the ice rink in its current location, we did have an upper mezzanine level. So we would need an elevator in that design. It didn't go all the way around, but it went about 2/3 maybe half the way around.
Yeah, that's
Um,
okay. I just
so-
didn't tell us that publicly. So,
Yeah, and in the revised moving the ice rink option, we did take out the mezzanine, so it took out the need for the elevator. We increased the footprint a little bit, which pushed it beyond the fence, which now talking to Kit may need to be pulled back and add a mezzanine and an elevator. So potentially both may need an elevator anyway.
That's always been a concern.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
it was
'cause
about
the initial-
$100,000 in the estimate.
I've been here a long time, so
Yeah.
I was here when the extra was planned.
Yeah. Okay. So
Gyms to go there.
hopefully that answers your question.
It does. I
Okay.
couldn't remember.
So
Did we want to let, Jenny's been standing up here for a while, and if she has a question or something that,
Just to
you
just
just
to
have
kind
to say your name.
Jenny Hendricks, thank you. Just to kind of echo what's been said. I mean, the scope of this project is huge. I mean, I've been involved in single family homes where it takes 3 months just to go through the planning stage. And so I appreciate the fact that everybody is kind of willing to sit down and talk about this. I mean, the numbers that have been thrown out tonight are 3.5 million, 4.5 million, 1.5 million being shifted from somebody to somebody. Well, is that the taxpayer that's going to pick that up? I think everybody is probably on board wanting both of these facilities. I think it would be great, but this has not been properly vetted. The taxpayers we have not seen anything about this. It was at 9:00 at night in the last work meeting that this came up. I mean, it just needs to be properly vetted. It needs to be a transparent process, and the public needs a chance to weigh in. Thank you.
Dallin Staley, could I just, in all transparency, we did hold 2 4-hour city council meetings with the public invited on 2 separate weeks that we did discuss this. So that was focused towards the plan of the ice rink being in its current location. And in that scenario, there really is no upfront financial cost to the city. 100% of the cost of construction is borne by us, and the city would commit through the lease agreement to the maximum of 85,000 a year towards the utilities. So
And an MOU from those meetings, an MOU was drafted basically telling you to move forward and get costs and all that.
Yeah.
So we've been there. We have vetted this.
But we've had this discussion for years about the ice rink wanting to lock up that piece of property, and Cedar City's councils have not voted that way. They have not said, ice rink, that piece of property is yours. I don't know why, but for years we've been over this. For the last 6 years since they moved in temporarily, they've pressed and pressed and pressed to get this locked up permanently. And the city has not been willing to do that. I think that's what they want to know is, where do we go?
Yeah.
And that's why I think we ought to let Mark give us some advice. He's the expert.
I want to take whatever path we need to take now in the next week or two to really vet this from an architectural perspective and
Not put.
cost perspective.
Can we not put a for sure
You
date?
want me to just move this along? Are we all fatigued with this? Maybe I'll get fired.
Tell us the money's all
Let's
there
just-
and we can
so-
just move forward.
So this has been circular for years, right? From day one, there was resistance to having the Yeti folks move in there because there was concerns they wouldn't vacate the footprint. The footprint of the gymnasium is very valuable to the community. There's millions of dollars of infrastructure around that footprint, which is okay. That's just objectively. So I think we're down to two things, because we've had the architect look at multiple scenarios. They've met with staff, Staley Rec, everybody. So we're basically down to this, at least from my point of view. Either the city enters a lease for Staley Recreation, a private business, to have the gymnasium footprint. We let them stand alone as a private business. We're not going to subsidize them. We're not going to give them RAP tax. We're not going to pay their utilities. They can have that very expensive community asset as a lease, and they can construct their facility and run their skate rink there. Or if we move the skate rink out to the front, then we need to present to our city council over here whether or not and to what extent we're going to contribute financially to keep the gymnasium in the design footprint, or if not, the city has some very, very, very high costs to put a gymnasium elsewhere. And that is why we will not be able to participate financially if we lease the gymnasium footprint to Staley Rec. So they'll have to just move forward. And I think that's just, we just circle back to this. So we
I would
either
agree
need
with
to-
all of that, except that I think there is built in to what's expected by Staley, a subsidy for utilities.
Why would the community pay for that?
Why do we pay for utilities for the aquatic center?
I think that was just
It's a
part of the
community.
memorandum of understanding that we
The
talked
Aquatic
about.
Center's not a private business.
It's a government function.
I understand.
So if Jason's going to get fired, then maybe I'll
There goes half your staff. We'll just clean house up there.
No, nobody is getting fired tonight. Help me.
Is that what the closed session is about?
My opinion is the free market should govern private industry.
You're right
Government
about that.
should stay out. This is just my point of view. Government should not regulate businesses unless it's for health, safety, and welfare.
Mhm.
And on the flip side, government should not subsidize private businesses. So that's why we need to take some time and figure this out. So we're not pulling all the risk from the Staleys and throwing it on the city. And on the flip side, the city's not pushing it all over on the Staleys. That's why I think it's wise to make sure the footprint's down, and then we can slowly work our way through this to make sure it's beneficial to everyone and not just pushing this through for the Staleys as quick as we can.
Okay, you two guys. So what does it take to convince you?
Staff doesn't vote. Staff's been instructed to make both work.
But your
We're
opinion
trying to
is very
present options.
valuable to this council.
So,
We need to have you vet it. We need to have you.
All right,
I
whatever.
thought we had it vetted last week, and then everything changed in the last 5 days. Everything I've heard tonight from you and half the stuff I've heard from Dallin is brand new.
really?
It's so far away from where we were last Thursday that I don't recognize it.
The other moving it back to that location.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
all of
yeah,
that
that is new.
Yeah,
was
no,
that is new.
completely
We
different
agree.
than
Oh, you're
the
right. That
numbers,
is
than
new.
the information, than any
Correct.
of the direction. that
Correct.
Was
But I think it is not new that we talked about trying to make both projects work, and
No,
the
that's
fact
not
that if the city had to come in and do some financial incentives to support the ice rink, whether it's building 2 walls or whether it's giving them an X amount of dollars, that is not new.
No.
Okay, so I want to make sure I've understood that.
but there, with that amount of money, we're going to have to do the
Agree.
public,
Totally agree with you.
public hearing, public process.
I totally
We
agree
would-
with you.
We would never
So-
do that.
That's why I think we should proceed, Mayor, on your comments earlier about trying to take some time, get the architect together, sit down with all of the interested parties in a very judicious and expedited fashion to start talking about
And we
this.
can
I
come
don't
in-
want to put a date on it just
No,
because
I
I don't
understand.
know the architects.
Didn't
We can
offer
come
one.
in 2 by 2 and sit down
Yeah,
with the
we'll do
architect.
2 by 2 and
2 by 2.
2 by,
Sounds like Noah's
Why
Ark.
don't you have the architect come to a public forum?
Yeah.
and we can do that and have you all here. It's just a matter of, I want to not try to book something over somebody's schedule that we don't know.
Okay, so what do you need from us tonight then to move ahead in that direction?
You to,
Nothing.
I mean,
Okay.
we can table it and get the information and then bring it back as soon as we have the information.
That's
That
what
would
we
be like a formal motion so that we have something.
So we table it, seeking all that information that we've discussed as soon as possible. That's my motion.
Second.
Before we vote, I would like to, when can we make a decision? How soon? How long are we talking?
Council can make a decision tonight.
30
I know,
days?
but how long do you think with what we've just proposed, with getting with the architect? I mean, I just know Dallin's been Dallin's very patient. I know they're really close to just walking.
No, I've
And
had that conversation.
They're really
with them.
close to just saying, we're going to take our toys and go home. And if that's what they do, that's what they do. But
I'm
I
sure.
think that would be a crying shame for
It
our
would.
city.
It would.
You've
I
got
agree.
you've got a private organization that has run a successful public-private partnership for 6 years, and they're willing to bring $2.8 million of value to the table. And
That's all, and none of that is new news.
I
Get
know,
your
I know,
nonprofit
but we
status and
can't-
it's a
we just-
whole
we just
different
can't-
ballgame.
We can't go another few months. It is.
Because government subsidizes nonprofits all the time.
So, okay. We have a motion. We have a second. As far as that, I think it would be as soon as we can get the information and the council feel comfortable.
If we can get that done in 14 days, great.
Can we call Mark tomorrow? See where he's at? I'm not
I will
kidding.
email
Why not?
him as soon as we adjourn
Great.
and invite him to come to the next work meeting or the work meeting thereafter, whatever fits his schedule.
I want you here, so.
Okay. So, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So you're good with where we are now? You know where we are? Okay.
I know. I cut them down.
Thanks, Dallin.
They're done.
Okay, item number 19,
I didn't
consider
like it.
approval of a resolution for the revision of the fiscal year 2018-19 budget. Now you can sit there.
Time to shine.
It's like bright light
What did you
right down on you.
on the software?
I don't really care. Do what you feel more comfortable
So
with.
we don't have any changes from what we presented last
Changes?
week.
But I
No.
didn't know that they would have to walk 100 miles.
So
Okay.
We don't want to go through
So with no changes, do you have any
But
questions?
I would approve the resolution for the revision to the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget.
I'll second.
All right, we'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay. Consider approval of a resolution for the adoption of the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget.
No changes from a week ago. Move to approve that resolution for the adoption of the 2019-2020 budget.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Okay, consider approval of the certified tax rate. We actually do have to talk this time.
This is that ethereal thing we call the certified tax rate.
Jason Norris, Finance. Yes, this is where we pretend to do math that none of us understand.
But it affects us all
but
greatly.
affects everyone. Yes. So Dan Jessen, the Iron County auditor, he oversees the certified tax rate. He waits on the assessor to come up with property values, plug those into a computer system. He works with all taxing entities to enter those values and then also to see if we're going to raise taxes, which we do through the truth in taxation process, which we're not going to be raising taxes outside of our certified rate.
So we're not raising taxes.
We're not raising new taxes, no. Also, we put in our general obligation debt, which we've already had approved in the past by voter ballot voluntarily for the community to pay debt service. One is on the library, one is on the Aquatic Center. So they will enter that into the equation as well, which I sent them that this afternoon. And then they will enter that on their side, and it's going to kick out a certified tax rate for me to come and present to you. So we didn't have that as of 5:30, but again, we're not raising any new taxes, and we don't have any new bonds or any unusual things. So procedurally, it will work its way through the system in the next couple of days. Next week, I will come in and I will present to you the city's certified tax rate, which you will approve. So it goes this way every year. There's just a lot of data that they have to put in. It's over $2 billion of property tax value that they're trying to do this assessment on. So,
and do they do it from from January to December, or do they go fiscal June?
Yeah, so they're on the calendar year for the collection. So
it takes them about 6 months to catch up and get all this information to us.
Well, so the assessed value will be 2019 this calendar year. It'll be due in the fall. We're on a fiscal period, so we have some strange accruals that you see in our financial statements. And
so is there a timing issue? Do we have to, we can wait until we get the final number?
Yeah, so as far as the city council, we just have to approve it before the end of June, which we'll be able to do. But again, the city hasn't delayed anything. We just wait until the county's able to get all that information in for us. So
presumably, final action meeting of June will do that.
yeah,
right?
And like I say, at this point, they entered the information yesterday or this morning, and now they have the debt schedules from all of us. So I think all entities should be able to have it approved by the end of this week. So we'll have that rate.
As soon as we get the number, we'll bring it back before you. But every year we put this on the agenda and kind of wait until we get the real number.
Okay.
I move to adjourn this meeting and move into our redevelopment agency meeting.
Okay. And then just so the council knows, at the end of those two meetings, we'll move back into this meeting to go into our closed session.
I will second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We're going into RDA.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't. No. Well, you could have come in the very. No, you could have come in the very beginning. In the very beginning. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Well, probably not past 9 o'clock.
but
I'm an hour late
we've
for
got a
a
closed session.
on a property
After
issue,
these
and I
two
don't.
meetings, it's a litigation issue, so we have to.
Can
close
you
the
not
door.
talk to each of us individually, or you want to do it all together? 'Cause you have to do it in public.
That was your number.
Okay, but then so you.
So it's just north of the fire.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
And that's the way it stands right now.
Yeah, that's exactly where it sits.
That's where it sits right now.
So I called
He just says
Leave it alone and leave it
is.
painted as it is.
And
my wife left me.
That's fine.
Because I haven't been home all day. I've been in meetings.
Yeah, just work with the two of us.
Yeah, we're not taking it away.
No.
A couple of those are okay.
One of them, we got like a storm drain line. Is that tomorrow?
We can't. I don't even know the
He is such a gunslinger.
I know we changed it. He needs to send that to me. I got used to it.
Anjali hasn't sent out.
Bobby, this is Scott Phillips. How are you? Since Fred doesn't have cell service up there, could you please get to messenger table? We are still in council
See, I
meeting, so
missed the
please
last
have
one
them
for
go
that
ahead
very
and
reason.
I hope they're eating or ordered or something because I don't have any idea when I'll get there.
All right.
And I'll try and
Renan
get
is
there as
ready
soon as I
whenever
can.
we want to start
Thank you.
these meetings.
As soon as we.
So as
free up
soon as
So it's at 11.
Ron is
council
done,
members.
then we are good to start.
Yeah, I'll sign that. 11:30. 11:30, right? I think I'm glad.
Okay, we need to start a new meeting.
I wouldn't have been there because I didn't have it down. I got to start. Okay.
Well, Anjali will get.
Call it to order, Mayor. Call it to order.
I can't, I'm not the chair of this one.
Well,
Ron
she
has
said she
to.
had graduated.
Oh, Ron has to do it.
last year, but
Yes.
I would have to have proof.
Sign it, Ron.
Yeah, sign it, man.
Okay. Yeah,
Put some money in there too.
We're waiting on Ron.
yeah.
I got to.
Thank you. How you doing, Scott?
Good.
Well, she was.
As soon as Ron will call this to order, then we'll start
Let's
just
go
with
listen
the
to the.
budget part.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, you show, like, send that to me, okay? All right. Okay,
I have dinner
that would
guests
be.
from Michigan. That's going to be a half hour ago. That must be yours. I
All
thought
right.
7:30 we'd be done.
Okay.
I was kind of thinking that myself tonight.
Okay, I'll see you then.
Okay.
I'll give Danny a call.
All right.
But we're doing our due diligence.
We would like to call the Redevelopment Agency meeting to order for June the 12th, 2019. We have two items on our business agenda. The first one is to consider a resolution for the revision of the 2018-2019 fiscal year budget. Jenny?
No changes to either of the budget items. They're ready to be approved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Roll call. Right. Thanks, Mayor. Mayor?
Aye.
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 I always forget that, huh?
It's a resolution.
Okay. Craig handled it better last week. I should let him. No. All right. Item number 2 is to consider a resolution for the adoption of the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget.
Been no changes, correct?
Changes.
Make a motion to approve the adoption of the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget for the RDA.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, starting with Paul.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Motion to adjourn this and move into the MBA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't ever get to do that.
Go to the MGO.
Well, they both do.
They both
my girls.
Did they both deserve it?
Yeah, she's awesome.
She is.
She's really good.
She goes, you know,
She's so wonderful. Yeah, she just retired from Suzuki.
Oh, did she? I mean,
But my other daughter, she only has one arm. Just her arm, but she plays with a plus size.
Okay, Ron, we're good.
Ready? Okay. We'd like to call the Municipal Building Authority meeting to order for June 12th. And we have two items on this business agenda. Consider resolution for the revision to the 2018-2019 budget.
No revisions. Move to approve the revision to the 2018-2019 fiscal year budget.
Second.
Mayor, I'll start
Aye.
with you.
Aye.
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 Okay. Item number 2 is to consider a resolution for the adoption of the 2019-2020 year budget.
No changes.
Changes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, starting with Paul.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Move to
another
adjourn this meeting and go back into our action meeting.
Second.
motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Closed session.
We need a motion to go into this or just
Yeah,
go
we
into it?
will. once she's back in this meeting.
To make the motion to go
Go into a closed
out
session.
of this into a closed session.
You can go hit up Mike. He's still in the back show.
Let's see.
I had to call
Phillips.
Millis and say, please tell my guests I'm still in council meeting because they don't have cell service up
I
there.
told you like 7:30.
Well, I thought we would be through at 7:30. They've been up there for a half hour.
We can handle this.
I want to know what it is.
See, it's
If
just
it's water, I'm gonna
it's just
leave.
your-
If it's water, I'm leaving.
Say, hey, I've
If
got
it's
something
nice,
else.
if it's nice juice
No,
or
it's
personal
a-
issue, I
it's
might stick around.
pending litigation.
Oh, no.
So-
Yikes.
So don't be
Might be
thinking.
about me.
Could
I
be.
better stay.
In my meetings with
Talk to Dave.
he's frustrated.
He's very calm and collected. And
I can't handle that.
Talk to his dad. They're that close. They're going to lose it.
Well, so are these not sacred tax dollars?
Of course
that
they
you-
are, Terry. We've
But-
talked, we've talked about this for.
We haven't talked about the taxpayer involvement at all, other
We
than
were-
the utilities.
we talked
No,
about
that was
it
super
tonight.
funny.
This is the meeting we're going to talk about.
Get
And
out.
it wasn't an advertised.
All right, are you ready?
I'm sorry?
Comment.
But it would happen. And we were going to discuss it tonight. And I mean, I'm just, whatever. You guys do whatever you want.
No, but
I'm in
here's,
favor of it. You guys do.
I'm in
whatever.
favor of it.
So are
I'm
we.
in favor of it too.
So
I'm
don't,
ju-
don't try throwing.
You're not the
us
Lone
off.
I'm just
Ranger.
telling you.
Like that.
I'm just telling you. They're that close to
If,
walking.
if that has to happen, then that has to
Yeah,
happen. It's
then they'll
not
have to
been
do it.
publicly
But we
vetted.
have debated this for years, and it's just.
Not this particular thing. It has not been vetted. How
We
much-
did 2 4-hour public meetings with an MOU to proceed at that location, and they did. And now
Not to proceed at that location.
No, to proceed.
To proceed with
talking
costs.
about it, what
Yeah,
the
to
cost
proceed
is.
Proceed
with
with
costs and
costs.
donations.
Correct.
And he was under the impression when he left that we pretty much gave him the green light to stay there. That was his impression.
I don't know.
Now
how
that could
he-
be
I
that
don't know
maybe
how
his
he did
bad.
that.
And then when we pulled the rug out from under him again.
What are we waiting for?
We haven't pulled the
Renan.
rug out from under.
We're just
Oh.
having Renan get the,
Renan,
yeah, she
yes,
just
okay.
has to flip back to
Yeah.
the
Okay.
other set of,
Got it. Get her a new computer.
well, as soon as we get into this, then we have to do the roll call vote to actually enter council, to enter the closed session. Okay, then we are now back in our action meeting. And,
So I move to adjourn into a closed session.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. We'll start with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Now we can close it.